G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, and this is Algared. Oh, I need to wake up. I'm shocked.
You do need to wake up. You're so out of it.
I am a little out of it today.
I've got to say, that was probably the least enthusiastic greeting you've done in a long time.
Wait, let's try it again. Hey, welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute. JJ by Algared. I'm Adrenaline. But yeah, no,
that's probably more like it.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I need a shot of adrenaline, so I'm just yeah.
Let me just get
most of the stuff set up today, just to do the bot, and then I'm good to go. So yeah.
And now that we've actually up and loaded, we can actually get the bot going. That's one of those things we've got to wait until.
Yeah, got to take
we're up and running, isn't it?
Yeah, a couple of minutes, or she checks a hissy fit. So yeah, good to see a lot of the usuals around. Yeah, I think it's going to be a quiet day today. We're into the start of the quiet season now for sure. Like as the holidays start to wean off, it gets really quiet here, especially between now to March. So we'll be in that quiet season.
Yeah, it is one of those things. You almost think that 2-week period where CIG are on break is a quiet period.
Yeah,
it's actually the period when they just come back, when they're in their meetings and planning stages of, okay, let's set out our next 12-month plan.
Plan? Holy shit! That I wonder how long that took to work out. Yeah.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
At that 12-month plan, they kind of set out and try and work out where they think realistically they can hit, and it's that 2 weeks of meetings where it's probably the quietest time, I think.
Yeah, I did watch Space and Paul talk about what they think is going to happen this year. I do have, I'm trying to organise a time to do a show with Space about that as well. I was going to see if I can get Paul in there as well, and just kind of get us all together, and because then when you bounce off each other, it changes again. So, yeah, that's one I'm kind of looking forward to. But it was because last year's one that you and Space did was really interesting because it actually did provide a lot of insight, just bouncing it off each other to see what the year was going to bring. I think obviously the start of it is just going to be getting the rest of 4.0 in, and once that's kind of in, I think base building's obviously still in the cards. Yeah, it's just interesting. I'm hoping we get a lot more gameplay this year once they start to, even just like tier 0 game loops. I'd like to see a lot of that. Yeah, I'm just interested to see where it goes. Like, because there's two ways they can do it. Obviously, they can do everything basic level, or they can just do one thing at a time. And I don't know what their actual thought process is there. Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see which way they go. Obviously.
Yeah, it would be nice to see further development on that. I wouldn't mind seeing a more dynamic economy, like seeing the buy and sell values be more actively influenced by what players are doing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely starting to come with the 4.0 stuff anyway. So yeah,
but also in terms of like when you're refining stuff, if there's a massive X quantity being refined, then and there's no space, the price goes up, and if there's not much, then it comes down because they're
more
after it, or vice versa,
So more dynamic is what you're actually saying. Yeah, but I get what you mean. Yeah, they're definitely putting a lot of the prices up a lot more now. Like things are a lot more like you're getting a lot more credits in game, but you're also everything's costing a lot more. But in a weird way, that's devaluing all the credits we've saved over the years. That you're like starting credits and stuff. Like so, it's kind of weird. Yeah, it's interesting to see where it's all going to go now. They're actually more actively working on the game.
Yeah, and I fully expect they're going to wipe the credits and stuff again at some point, and stuff we've earned in game just because they'll need to. I know they say they don't want to do it as much, but they've never said not going to do it.
Yeah. Thought of something I do want to talk about actually. I don't know if I can actually bring it up straight away. Let me have a look. Need a second to bring it up. Get your questions in though, guys. Too. I have put the bot up, so it is.
Yep,
all working
the bot
now.
is up. And at the moment, it's going to be a very, very short show because we've got no questions. So good night. Bye.
I was keen for bed by the sounds of it.
Well, yeah. we got a question.
You got one.
Although, oh, yeah, it's come through.
Trying to find it, but it's not going to come through, is it? Nope, it's not. I had it the other day, and now I can't find it again. But I can just tell you off the top of my head anyway. Anyway, I'll flick it over. What I actually wanted to talk about is the new prices of these CPUs. They are...
You mean the graphics cards?
Yeah, the graphics cards. What did I say? CPUs, yeah. Same shit, different bucket. You get
Yeah.
completely, just completely different, the same. Yeah, that's it.
That's right. Completely different, but the same. Oh, yeah. But, for completeness and correctness, got to correct you.
So, they are... So, how do I put this? Like, I don't think, how do I put it? I don't want to sound like it's an Australian problem, because it's not just an Australian problem. But what I'm trying to say is I think in Australia it's exacerbated. And so when things go up here, they go up a lot more because there's like a flow-on effect where everyone, like, so if they put something up, all the people in the chain along take their extra cut, but they also round it up. So it goes up so much more here. To put it in perspective, the last series of cards, so the 4000 series, they sell from $3,500 to $4,000 depending on the model. This is literally looking like it's going to take $1,000 jump and be somewhere between, like, the recommended retail price they're saying is just over $4,000, but realistically it's going to be like $5,000. Which is just insane, because if you only go back a few years, that's the price of an entire PC.
It is. I was going to say, face it. What your real beef is that graphics cards, the new graphics cards, are the cost of every other component plus in a PC build.
Yeah.
Heck, it's like I had to rebuild my computer last year, as you know. I managed to get it fairly cheap because I'm still hanging on to my old 1080. My old 1080 Ti, because it's still able to function. Yeah. But I really do. I am getting to the point where it is time to replace it, but it is so expensive. It's
I think the other part of this though too is most of the features for this are all kind of software based. They're all like artificial frames and stuff like that. It doesn't feel like a traditional hardware boost. They've actually made the graphics card smaller, so I think there's just so much. I think AI is just doing so much of the heavy lifting here. You actually look at the PCB, it's like a third the size, and the fans actually kind of blow through heat. Heat pipes. So the card itself now is only like this big. Where if you looked at previous generations, they were so big they were taking up 3 slots. So they're just relying so much on software here that I just the price increase plus the actual massive reduction in the physical size of the card just kind of, there's something that just doesn't add up there. Like
well, I know
the other
1080 Ti.
The other side of the coin though is the AMD have also taken their software technology, and it was open source last time. Now it's not. Now, because I don't know if that's just because of NVIDIA doing it, but I also think it's got something to do with Intel now making graphics cards. They're like, well, we don't want to share anything because that also will help Intel. So there's now a third horse in this fight, so it's changing it slightly. But again, AMD has decided not to fight at this top end, and so because NVIDIA is the only one actually in that space, they can just charge whatever they want. And the top end card has got a massive increase in price, where everything else has had to stay kind of competitive. So because AMD's just decided not to join this race, NVIDIA's gone, yeah, we can just charge whatever we want.
Yeah, like I know with my my 1080 Ti card, it takes up 2 slots. The other thing is, I was just thinking, the reason AMD are doing what they're doing is because they need to survive 900 years into the future. So
I've just
give it a slight.
You can look at the same thing on any of the cards here. I'm just wondering if the didn't mean to zoom in there. But what I wanted to show you, where is it? It's the 480, the 490. All right, so this is the 590, right? So one of the things you'll notice is if you actually look at the games, right, these
Mm.
two first games here, they don't really support frame generation. All these ones support frame generations. So it looks like it's double the thing. This is the real performance boost on these two, right? So when they come out and claim that it's like over 50% better, this is all just like 50% frame generation. So this is like bullshit. So all these ones here, you know, like, because if you're putting in 3 false frames, that doesn't mean the mouse is reading all 3 of those either. So you're essentially trying to work out between the, you know, the real frames what the mouse is doing as well. So you can get this weird lagging and stuff. So there's only a certain point where they're going to be able to fake this so much, where back here, this is going to act a lot more like what we know. So, you know, this is the typical 10 to 20% you see between generations. So this is the real stuff. This is all the bullshit. So this is what I think most people were expecting, and I think this is a lot more realistic. I think this is all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. As Bowler on YouTube says, again, it's usually a 20% increase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's very telling, and I think when the actual reviews come out, they'll, you know, that's not just my analysis. That's other YouTubers that I've looked at and stuff like that as well. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of share that with people, because don't go out thinking that you're going to get double the performance, because as we all know, AMD, Nvidia, Intel, any company will make it shown in the best light, and their own slide tells on them though. So yeah, it's just interesting. Yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to say. They're exceptionally expensive. But yeah, they're just holding us over it. What the hell? Yeah, that's a bit weird. Right. Yeah. I don't know, I'm just I'm excited, but I'm also nervous at the same time, just to see where that kind of goes. But yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. Chris, don't need any. Is it Chris who said it? Don't need any more space heaters. Sorry, Parker. I don't need any more space heaters. We were doing an episode yesterday, and my computer started to complain quite loudly at the heat.
Yeah, the fans went up. The fans went up a bunch, didn't they? So yeah.
They did. I think it was the first time that they've actually done that. So it was quite gnarly in here, as they'd say.
Yeah, because your old air conditioners kicked the bucket.
Oh, my old air conditioner bit the bullet. It's horrid.
Yeah. So,
horrid indeed.
There's not a lot of new Star Citizen news. I think the only other thing I've got here to talk about that we can really talk about before we get into questions, we've only got 2 questions. This is going to be an incredibly short stream.
Indeed.
Is Carl Jones left? He was their kind of big financial guy. If you read the post here, he basically talks about how he helped them raise over $1 billion, or not $1 billion, million, no, $1 billion. No, it is $1 billion. Yeah, raise $1 billion. Yeah, I don't know a lot about the man. He's obviously been there since like almost the very beginning. You know, he was very proactive about. I've heard different things about the CCU game from different people, so I don't know what's exactly true. I've heard people say that he gamified them and he wanted it to be that way, but I've also heard other people saying that he wanted to get rid of it. So I'm hearing conflicting reports there. Board Gamer did a very good video on talking about him, and it's probably had the most information I've seen. But yeah, he's really been a kind of I don't want to say in the shadows, but he's never really been someone in the limelight, because he's more of the money raiser, financial type person, accountant type style, not really a dev in that normal kind of phrase.
It's a bit like our mate who's in the finances, who's in the accounting department.
Yep.
At CIG, you know, at background, still doing important work, but not one of those faces you'd see all the time. Like, we wouldn't have actually known who he was until he grabbed us at CIG and says, "You guys."
Yeah, maybe we should ask him about Carl Jones. He might be able to tell us some stuff on it.
He might be able to give us a bit of insight.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing here is that Carl Jones was there 10 years. And
It's a long time.
I've heard people say, "Oh, the sky's falling," but it's just normal turnover. Like 10 years, people often move on. Like I've said it a few times since last year. We had 3 of our staff at school who'd been there for 15 years or longer decide, "Yep, I'm done. I'm moving on. I'm changing schools. It's just normal." So
you don't normally get people that live in I remember when I lived with my parents, we moved house every 5 years. It was crazy, and I've been in this house for 15 years. It's just really weird. Like a lot of people, it's just their thing. They like to move. It's not it's not something that I enjoy. Again,
no,
I just like it where I am and I stay. But yeah. I
yep,
don't know.
I'm the same.
Again, he's probably got a wife and kids. You've got no idea his life and thing has changed. He actually did move to Manchester, by the way, from the States. So maybe he wanted to go back. You just don't know. There's, as you said, there's just a lot of moving parts there that and people like a sea change too. So yeah, it's not the sky's falling. Man, this is probably God, we must be getting close to 100th person we've talked about at this point that's moved on. But I think, as you said, it's because he's been there for so long and he's kind of so high up. Well, COO, that's way up there. I think he probably just wanted a change and gotta imagine moving from one country to another. Play on someone there.
No, you never know what's going on in the background of people, and realistically, we don't really need to know. We just need to know, hey, he's gone. He sings the praises of everyone he's worked with. It doesn't seem to be a one of those a forced leaving. It seemed to be a very positive parting, and that, I think that just bodes well as well. It's not a bad thing. It's just life.
Digme Smollett in chat says, I am a bit concerned about the guy running the server meshing team left right after the first iteration rules. Yeah, that's a lot more concerning.
Yeah.
To be honest, because it's such a core tech, and if he's running the team, again, you don't know people's personal stuff, and that how do you just let's be honest, that's going to be the biggest factor. And when you can't tell the biggest factor, how can you actually say, oh, he hated it? You can't say that. You don't have enough information to work with. And it's the same thing when we speculate on any stuff. You never ever have the full picture. And that's why a lot of people don't like speculation, because you never have the full picture.
And that's why we never try and speculate alone. It's always with 2 or 3. It's always bouncing ideas off, because if someone says something totally outlandish, it may have some credibility, but everyone else is going to go and at least pull it back to the realms of reality, and so.
All right, we've got 4 questions. This is going to be the quickest stream of all time.
Or we spend about 75 minutes on each question. Yeah.
That's all right. No, again, I can tell it's a low period. The viewer numbers are down. It's just that time of year. So if this is a quick stream, it's a quick stream. That's just how it is. First one's from Chris. It says, a board gamer made reference to an upcoming In Case You Missed It sale. What's happening in January? Yeah, so they did that last year for the first time. The rest of his question says, when this happened in January 2024, many felt it was a bad look. Is this going to be an annual event now? I think he's doing that to see if it's coming out or not, but I won't be surprised if it comes or doesn't come, because a lot of people did, especially over the F8. I think a lot of people are really annoyed by that, because it was said to be said to be the only time the F8 was ever going to be sold. But it's sold again.
I got the feeling that the F8 did kind of leave a sour taste in a lot of people, but I think the one that left the worst taste was actually the F7C Mark II upgrade. But I think with the interesting thing with
that's not relevant to the question,
though. But I think in terms of the In Case You Missed It sale, what might be relevant is that survey that CIG put out, because one of the questions in that was, what events do you look forward to? And the In Case You Missed It sale was one of the events. And so if everyone said, I hate it, then CIG might look at it and go,
I don't think there was an option. I don't think there was. Check. like, again, we went through it live on stream, but check my memory, but there was no option to say, I hate these. It was just,
No,
I like
it was
these.
put him in order.
Yeah, I'll put them in the order. Yeah.
And, you know, if people went, nah, you know, if that was the bottom thing, CRG might look at it and go, yeah, it's not worth our time.
I think I think if you're going to do in case you missed it sale, I wouldn't do it in January. I would do it in like June or July, like the other quiet period. The reason for this though is let's be honest, most years are backloaded, right? So the only ship that I can think of that most people would want that hadn't really had a more recent chance to get would be the Ironclad from Invictus last year, right? All the other stuff, like the bigger ships, which is, let's be honest, when people have missed stuff, they're the hardest stuff to get. So you're thinking Star Lancer, you're thinking maybe Paladin. That's all kind of really just kind of been in the last couple of months. So the only one is the Ironclad. So for me, I don't know, when would you like it to fall? Because I think June, like if they made it literally July, August, the other quiet period, I think it would be more successful then.
Yeah, I think it. I think in terms of you got Invictus, you've got Citizen Con and the Ship Showdown, and they're kind of the big sales. So January feels like it's far enough away from both of those to be the reason why. I imagine CIG were just testing the waters, seeing whether a sale there would work, whether people had an appetite for it.
I just think it was too soon. Like yes, putting all the ships from the previous year, I don't really personally have a problem with that, because if it was up to me, they wouldn't be limited sales. But it's because people are like, cool, I've got this rare F8 now, no one else can get it, haha. But now you're offering it again. That's why people were pissed. It was like, well, you're opening up for more people to buy it when you told me it was limited. So that's the other thing. Just don't make it limited. Period.
Yeah, it is those both factors of, you know, Parker says it's saying push-pull factors, and it just reminds me of teaching geography of the factors that make people go somewhere and the factors that push people away, and it's that fine balancing act.
Well, any time you want to get pissed off about them selling your ship, just remember the Banner Merchantman will only be available for one day. 2013.
Yep.
And it's been available ever since. So you want to get pissed and mad? I've got more right that, well, there's not. Let's be honest. We go back to 2013 on that singular day it was meant to be available. I think all those people have more right than anyone to be pissed. So you know, I'm not pissed, but I'm just saying, if you want to stand there and say they resold my F8, then I think I've got way more right to be pissed than you'll ever have over an F8.
Look, I would have rather just seen, you know. I'd rather seen the Javelin and the F8 and you name whatever ships are in those rewards just ditched.
Yeah,
I'd have preferred to not see anything like those in those rewards. But then, I'm not going to complain.
No.
I'm not going to complain when I get something about and a little sweetener added in. But yeah, just. And then part of me also doesn't mind those things, because it does mean that there's less of a.
I have just thought of one more thing we can look at real quick too.
But the other thing I do like about those things is the fact that it does reduce that. Oh, I've bought it. I've got it special, and yeah, I'm not really into that. I'm quite happy for.
I think again, because they use it as FOMO, though, that is how people think, and that's the problem. You need to stop thinking in FOMO. All right, so I need to move my fat head down a bit. Here we go. Right, so we're already $2 million in. So literally it ended up being a 1% difference, or literally $1 million difference. Now, here's the other thing I want to bring into this that doesn't actually equate into this, is subscriptions and other things like that, other forms of money raising that aren't tracked on there. Because I'd be willing to bet if you brought subscription into this, you'd probably find that they're pretty damn equal. The be, you know, a year on year, probably another $1 million in there. But I heard a lot of people saying they were canceling their subscriptions because last year was pretty woeful. There wasn't much good. Like there was like plants and stuff and boring crap. But the fact that we're already $2 million in for January is kind of crazy to me already.
Especially when you look at how, compared to the graph, it's halfway through, and we're not. Well, we're a third of the way through the month, kind of, sort of, and we're so. The
month that really kicks it, though, if you really go through there, is CitizenCon and IAE. Like everything else is on par or bigger. Well, look at Invictus.
Yeah.
Right?
On par or bigger, and those two are.
And they just, especially AIE. AIE is like, what, 2/3 at best of the previous year? So, yeah. But then again, by the same count, you can look at December. December's twice the size. The Guardian went gangbusters.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's part of it as well. Like, ships will come out, and you might think this ship's going to sell like hotcakes, and it just doesn't appeal to the community. And then another ship comes out, and the community loves it.
Well, you've only got to look down here to see where all the spikes are, like all the way along. And they even, if you put your hand out and go like this, Algared, you can see all the, not that. Yeah.
Hang on.
Point at the ships. Yeah, you can see like when a ship comes out. So you can see what brand comes out and stuff like that. And they just spike like crazy because that's how it is. It's not really realistically like this. It is a lot more like this. So yeah. It's just really interesting to see because it'll be interesting to go back and you could almost look at like was the Starlancer very popular, because that's the other thing. You kind of look at that tells you how popular the Starlancer was, but as an example, this is a far more effective way to tell you how popular a ship is, and to be honest, in hindsight, this is the stuff that when we actually, the thing we did, I'll just say it. So we did a review of the Reclaimer this week, right? We're going back and we're going to start doing reviews of everything based on, we've just been getting all these people asking us to do reviews, right? So you're going to be picking ships, but this could be a really effective thing to look at is in hindsight 2020, how well did they sell initially? Now you got to remember, obviously on a track of time, they're going to be a lot lower, but it's like looking at the time where they came out, how popular were they received? And again, if you down near where Algared is, you can see that there are ones there that are half the size of others, these spikes, right? So you can just go, oh, that was this ship. Shit, that wasn't as well received as the next one that came along that was twice the size. So
and then the other thing is, as you look at the spike as you go back, like if you look at a 2014 spike, it's only got, say,
like that
1,000 cells.
Like I was gonna say, look at the Perseus there.
Yeah.
Like that one massively stands out. Yeah.
But if you go, what I was going to say, if you go back and compare, say, 2014 sales and look at the spikes of the ships then, they're going to be significantly smaller than the spikes now because the community was like only 10% of what it is now. So the sales were significantly less. But if you look at them in ratio to the number of backers of a time, they'd again be bigger or smaller. So
this year's best in show didn't even equal the Perseus. So that just shows you how well, and that's look how long ago the Perseus was. It's crazy when you start to look at it like that. There's some ships that have just been so well received, and then there's others that just
as Bowler says, the Atlas certainly had a hand in carrying the year. Yeah, it certainly did have a hand in bolstering the year. It's certainly a vehicle or ship or whatever you want to call it, but appealed and spoke to the community.
Even me and you picked one up, didn't we? So that was like when we talked. That was the only thing. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that was the only thing you picked up this year.
Only thing I picked up this year and I actually bought it with credits.
Yeah.
So it's the only thing I actually paid cash for this year. So if I remember correctly, I didn't buy any of the new ships. I just CitizenCon kind of killed that for me. The expenses there. I'd do it again, but
I think being the first Titan suit though, I think we're going to have to be honest. There's got to be more coming. Now they've got that in working, like to literally just take that and put 2 guns on it as an example, or 1 gun. You can see that pretty quick, can't you?
And the next one that comes out will be 10 times better, and yeah,
We've said that.
100% see it.
We've been saying that for years now. Like, if you're gonna sell stuff, sell it from worst to best, because then you're more likely to sell more. Look how many ships we've had come out now, where they pretty much superseded. Well, the whole Hercules story. Remember, we've said this a couple of times now, but I'll repeat it. We were doing a tier list, and me, Paul, and Sia at the time basically argued for an hour and a half. And my whole argument is, you guys are not fortunate. They wanted to put it as top tier, right? And I refused because I said, there's only going to be one other ship that comes out that carries large vehicles, and this thing just plummets like a rock. And less than 12 months later, the Liberator was announced, and you guys now know the story. There's now multiple ships that can do that, and there's other things that have come on, like tractor beams and stuff like that. And the Hercules is now dropping out of favor. But I'm not. This is not derogatory to them, but they just didn't have the foresight to see that there were other ships coming where I knew they were coming. And I don't know that as in I could miraculously tell they were going to make the Liberator. It was so obvious that the wholesale concept of that Hercules was it transports large vehicles. And it's like, yeah, there'll be other ships that do that.
Yeah,
such a large feature. Why wouldn't they make another ship?
There are two elements to the tier list, though. I think one is
personal.
Where does the ship sit for us personally? But also, the other two ways are where does the ship fit in terms of what's available now, and where does the ship fit in terms of where it is later? And
if we were doing it as in where it was right then and there, yeah, absolutely, it was really good for the time. But look where it is now; it's dropped way down. And I was just trying to get them to see the future. And very short. Algared, are you slouching today? Is this
no,
slouchy
just
stream?
lean back in the chair.
Lazy bum stream, right?
Yeah.
It's
what happens if the heat starts kicking?
Are you rocking the shorts today as well?
Of course I'm rocking the shorts today.
Yeah.
It's too hot to be doing anything else.
Yeah. We're going to have to get you do a fashion parade one day. People will look at you in a completely different light.
No.
So often before stream, right, he'll go get a coffee or something like that, and you just see him walk out with no shoes on, these little white pins, and it's just... I lost it the other day. I was cackling for like a full 10 minutes.
He couldn't control himself. He was just in so much laughter.
Oh, it just looks so funny because
I'm glad that I can
look.
I'm glad I can be that healing device for you and bring laughter and hilarity to your life. They say laughter is the best medicine, so I gave you the best dose of medicine out.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, next question is from Carsten. Carsten Christensen says, haven't played in like 3 months. Should I get back now? Yes.
Personally, I'll be waiting till some of the fixes come in. There is some.
All right, you'd wait a little longer, yeah.
Yeah, I'd wait a little longer because, like, I'll be honest, I can load up the game right now. I've had so many bugs from missions not working that I have none of my starting credits left. I'm down to like less than 2,000 credits. I can't repair my ship. I can't buy armor. I can't do anything. And every time I try to go to a mission to just make the tiniest bit of money, it doesn't work. And I've just got to the point where I just can't play the game anymore because I can't repair ships. I just can't do anything. I've been drained of all finances, essentially.
I think it's a matter of do the shared missions with people, but if it's an issue of you just not getting paid even on completion of shared missions, then
it's little things like so just to give an example, one of the ones I was doing was and I tried this multiple times in multiple places, both systems and multiple planets, but basically just the very first kind of not box delivery, but the cargo hauling mission, right? So I'll be like, take 9 SC of this from the space station above ArcCorp down to ArcCorp. And when you get there, and you unload all the boxes, you'd put the elevator down, and it just wouldn't accept them. What the hell's happening there? Wait, hang on. I think you hooked gifted 10 subs on Twitch. Wow, thank you. Make sure you forget. Thank you very much. He got Poofix, Viking 92, Sizzleano, Dizzle 90. Mo, God, man, I'm losing people's names.
Algared even got one.
Man, don't give one to that dickhead. Mopar, Alki, Currency Sky, Rhino, Railzonum, and Astro Otto. Make sure you thank you, Hook 2005 for your sub. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Thank you, Hook, for the subscription. Most appreciated. So, yeah.
Yeah, reading is hard.
Yeah, it is. But, well, it's not necessarily that the reading is hard. It's the reading the stream as well as engaging with the audience and using, going between multiple sources.
That's Carson on Twitch that did the subs. So because we're doing these questions. Yeah. So I'd look, if you haven't been in for 3 months, like, it doesn't hurt to download and go have a look. But if you're wanting an optimal experience, it's and they literally did say the reason why they released both versions at the same time was because they didn't get the missions working. So am I surprised it's broken? No. Is it annoying? Yes. But again, I know that they'll fix it. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think they're going to have to do another wipe, because there's two sets of people that have exploited the system and made copious amounts of money, and then there's a few people like just as many people like myself that have basically can't make any money because they're all bugged. So yeah, I think the only fair thing to do is to wipe it, because, like, how do you start when you got no money? It's just, you can't do anything. Nothing works. Everything's broken. And I think that's the other thing that even you and I noticed yesterday. So me and Algared, when we were trying to record that Reclaimer stuff, there was just so much debris around every station. No landing zone loaded properly, because there's just nothing is being deleted or removed. And so basically, like, there's just ships everywhere. Like, if you crash a ship into a station, it just stays there. Yeah. So you do the math after a month. This is why everything's starting to run really badly, is because there's just all this junk there.
Mind you, the other thing was, we were in the same server. I was having no issues, and you were tanking like a and having issues all over the place.
Well, you were able to warp to certain places, and I'd warp them and go way past them, and stuff like that. So I don't know. Maybe it is just a localizing to me, but I'm not the only one I've noticed this. Like, I've had other people saying to me, there's just heaps of junk ships around and stuff like that. So yeah.
And having said that, like, even though I wasn't having issues, you're right. We went to two landing zones, and the junk around those landing zones was incredible. And it's almost if you could go in and salvage them, you could make a mint. But unfortunately, they're probably in the armistice zone, so you can't. But yeah.
Well, after we tried 2 different landing zones, we then went to an outpost, and there was just as many people at one of these outposts, and then I just went, stuff it. I just got really annoyed, and we ended up dropping back into Arena Commander and did it in Arena Commander. But they've changed Arena Commander and there's new map. So, because I was worried it was going to be too dark, but then I loaded it. I think it was the New Doctor one. And I loaded into that, but then I did New Doctor with a ship. So it just put me on the outside of the New Doctor, and that was totally fine. So when you see that was, I might even see if keep doing ship reviews that way, because it was so smooth. Yeah.
So if it works, we'll keep doing it. But hopefully it wasn't just a glitch.
All we know is that so someone just was saying, "Hi fellas, any news on the new patch dropping out?" And that was from Major 2501. We only have the same news that you do, that it was meant to drop yesterday, and something went wrong, and so basically delayed it. But being Friday, that'd be, if it doesn't come today, then obviously it'll come next week.
And just before the stream, you did check to see if the patch had dropped, and it hadn't dropped at that point.
Yeah, so. I'm also going to check the message of the day real quick on Spectrum, because that's a not Spectrum, but the chat thing. Let's see if there's any new information there. Just give me a second. God, now I can't get the Spectrum. Typical. There we go. But yeah, all right. We'll do another question real quick. If you want, Parker.
So Parker. Says, would you like to see patch cadence resolve more or less around events like Invictus and AIE?
Yeah, I think that definitely. God, that's got to add like a level of shit you don't need, no? Like I'm trying to get this done. Oh, now I've also got to get this to work with this. Isn't it just like compounding it and making it so much worse? Like, imagine, I understand it from a sales perspective though, because it builds that hype. Like, we've got new patch, we've got new ship, new shiny everywhere, blah, 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 blah. You know, and that gets people drawn up in this hype. But at the same token, it just puts so much extra pressure that I just, all this stress that they probably don't need, personally.
Yep. I suppose to be a fly on the wall would be great. To actually see the thinking behind what they're doing. But yeah.
So this is 2 hours ago, so that's the most latest that I think we can get. Some name that looks like it's written in I think that's Finnish or something like that, says we are currently, it says Vajaja Gujanaga. I can't pronounce it right. Oh, hey, look, I'll just bring it up on screen. Why argue about it when I can just bring it up? Then you can read it for yourselves. That one. Right. So yeah, message of the day is what I'm talking about here. So yeah, look, there you go. He basically says, we are currently putting together a new 4.0 build and targeting a PTU release to all backers later today. For the first hour of tonight, 4.0's release when it comes out. Please spawn in Area 18 as a stress test to let us know if you see any anomalies such as overlapping hangers. See, and this is the shit about reading the patch notes. Yeah. How many people do you reckon are not going to spawn in Area 18?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would happily spawn in Area 18.
Yeah.
If I could come back later and say, I've changed where I want to actually have my base because you wanted me to spawn there. Because I don't want to be in Area 18. Yeah. I hate Area 18. Yeah.
I'll
just avoid it.
But this is only for the PTU. Now, I can't actually bring this up on the screen, but they need this message of the day needs to... You know how when you log into the game and it does that acknowledgement screen that pops up? When it's the PTU... They need another pop-up, or just remove that one and have that as the pop-up that comes up, says message of, or you know, or the patch message or something like that comes up. That's where this needs to be, because then as soon as you log in the game, it goes, hey, by the way, can you do me a favor and spawn at Area 18, bro? And I'm like, yeah, sure, bro, no worries. People are not going to go out of their way to go to this shit.
No, and in the PTU, you want to say, you either just make it so you can only go to Area 18. It's the only place available if you want to stress test it. But yeah, asking people to do it and putting in a patch note in Spectrum, which most people don't read because Spectrum is Spectrum. It just stuff will get missed.
Yeah.
Anyway, next question. Socially Confused says. Wacker wrote about Handyman contracts being in the upcoming patch. What are those? Repair documents. Repairs. So a outpost needs its fuses repaired.
Look at that guy.
Going to fix it.
Execute. Go away. Nobody wants you. All right, yeah. See you, bud. Right. I just said slowly. Anyway. Right, so I missed that question completely. What was the question?
What are Handyman contracts? So Whack-A-Mole wrote about Handyman contracts being in the upcoming patch. What are those? And I just said, it's repairs.
Yeah.
So go replace the fuse on Outpost X because it's not working. Go repair X because it's broken. Little jobs. Jobs that people who are broke can go and do.
I think it's a lot of the, they did mention, no, that's the hand salvage. I wonder what that'll be called, actually, the hand salvage stuff. But I think, again, like you and I talked about, I think that those panels are more likely in the misfortune vein. So, yeah. I'm interested to see... I know I've kind of, like, side-skirted that question there, but I am interested to see when they sell the next ship. Because there's still ships that we know that are in the files there from the last patch. And we also know that they put in things like Chinese New Year skins and St. Patrick's Day skins. So that patch, they expected that to roll that far forward, right? So, what's that? What's St. Patrick's Day? March. So there's the other ships that are in there that applies by March. Possibly we will have the misfortune and other ships that are in there. Would you think? Do you think that's a sound bet, or am I on the crack train?
If the idea was they've got the skins for a ship kind of put in for March, then you'd expect that ship to be there. You know, if there were skins for a ship for a sale in March, you obviously need the ship to be out and in.
And the gameplay to fit with it. That's and as soon as I saw them talking about the hand salvaging panels, I went, it sounds a lot like what I think the misfortune will be. But I don't know. I don't know about you, but I think in a lot of, again, we could go back and look at those sales data, but how do I put this? Just another fighter or another utility ship? See where I'm going with this? Like I don't know. My brain kind of I don't know. I'll put that out to chat too. Are you more interested in utility ships or fighter ships? Because I just think there's so many combat ships right now. I find them refreshing when a utility ship comes out.
Yeah, I would much prefer a utility ship because I think they have more versatility. There's things that you can do elsewhere. On tighter fighters, I've got bulk of them. But I think the handyman stuff will be things like, small hand repair, small hand salvage for the panel that's broken that needs to be cleared up so we can put a new one in. So that you're going to the jobs and you're doing those small things. You're doing the fuse replacements. You're doing the salvage and repair of a panel or a wall or stuff like that.
Yeah, like Parker's saying in chat, new gameplay, but what is coming? And I think that's the problem. We are still at that foundational level. Like, that was the thing we kind of realized last year when we did that show about what's coming with space, was that they'd built Squadron, but they needed to then go build the basic foundation of what this MMO part of Star Citizen is, and that's why there was a huge build towards base building. We've now got the engineering. Like, you never needed those for a single player game, but now you're moving into the multiplayer. You start to realize how, like, bases are essentially another series of vehicles essentially that gives you all those so you need that there before you start building the gameplay on top, right? And it's the same thing with engineering, because now engineering interconnects the ships to the vehicles to the like, again, you could take fuses from one and put it in another, right? So once you realize it's all interconnected, you have to have all that interconnected stuff together, because as soon as you say pick one profession, so I'm just going to say medical, you can start to see, it works in a Pisces, it works in all the ships, and then it works in the vehicles. It also then works in the, like, a bed in a building is going to be no different to the bed on a Pisces. It's just different mechanical.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can see that they're essentially saving themselves a shit ton of work by doing it in the correct order. And unfortunately, that's the last thing we wanted to hear, was like, we're going to do more foundational stuff just as we're getting rid of Squadron. I should say getting rid of it, but as we're rounding the, to the release of Squadron 42, we wanted, we've waited this long, we want that gameplay, but we've now just got to wait that little bit longer to get those base things in. But it then means when they do come out, we'll be getting them for bases, vehicles, ships, and all that in a lot more of a rollouty way. So if you are a base guy, you're going to be happy, because think about it, every time a new gameplay comes out and you build bases, you're going to have a different type of base to build. And if you're a vehicle or ship guy, the same thing. So every time something new comes out, it's going to permeate.
Yeah, it goes back to that old thing. Do I put something in and then build stuff around it and change the underlying structure later on and make it harder, or do I build the whole foundation and then build on top? And that's a question I can remember Chris answering way back in 2014. When comparing, people were saying, "Why didn't you go over route that Elite Dangerous went? Why didn't you go over route this went?" And Chris said,
I think that's proven in hindsight to be the better way to go, personally.
Chris went.
No. The way
we're going. Yeah.
No, the way Chris went is the better way to go, because it's allowed them to expand, where Elite Dangerous is finding they have to go back and start again.
Yeah. And Chris said there are different ways you can do it. This way has merit. This way has merit. I chose this way. And at the end of the day, yes, I think it gives like Elite Dangerous had that leg up first, but then they've got to go back and fix stuff. Whereas Star Citizen have built in the base, and they'll yin and yang.
Parker's saying may need drones for NPCs flying around. So, but the basic level of drones, as Algared keeps reminding me, will be the automated ones that come with base building first. But then I think after that, yeah, we'll probably get more as those professions get touched on. I'm not saying medical is coming first, by the way. It was just the one that I picked. You could pick any profession and apply that to what I'm saying. In fact, I'd probably say the ones that they've talked about previously. So I don't know what order it's going to be, but bounty hunting is literally hanging in the winds, as is scanning. They've been talking about, if you remember back to an ISC almost 2 years ago now, was it 2 years ago, or it was almost 2 years ago, they showed the pushing the carts around, the grey boxing of that, and we even know that they're on the capital struts of the space stations where you can. So that gameplay's been sitting there waiting to go in. We now have ships for it, like the Marky Mark and stuff like that. So again, they also showed off almost a year ago now, them redoing the Hawk series to be able to take those pods. So there is a lot of work that's already been done on those, and I'm just giving you an example, not saying that that's next, but there's definitely things there. It's almost like another mini waiting of the damned scenario, because they push base building forward. All these other things have been held back. So, I don't know.
Well, I think any drones that are automated, I think will do that. So I could see the medical pickup of a down pilot.
Yeah.
Once you've targeted him and you go, boom, the drone automatically goes, picks him up, brings him back.
Yeah.
The same with the bounty hunting. Once you've got it on the bed, and it's just a trolley at that point.
It's also
but the drone doing that stuff kind of just seems to be automated.
It was also like yesterday when we were talking about the claimers drone room, it became really obvious that thing just hasn't been touched in so long, that say they put salvage drones in tomorrow, they're probably more likely do it around a new ship, or say the Vulcan, because it's smaller, because the reclaimer's got work there to be done, but all these other places. So when you start to look at things like that, you just quickly go, certain things are just not going to get in a preferential order, because you'd want it working perfectly before you went and put it on a bigger ship, because it requires so much extra work.
And I could see them doing that with, a Vulcan. They bring out the Vulcan, it's got its salvage drones or its repair drones, and it's just, when they first come out, it's basically you pick your target, and then it's just automated. It just does it. There's no remote control really that you're doing. And then as time goes on,
that's actually not a bad idea. Actually, automated first, and then go
and then bring in the more remote stuff. And I think that's we'll see that with building. I think we could see that first with salvage and medical.
Because you can fake it, can't you? It's like what we talked about with AI, because essentially you can just send it out and it just collects it over time, send another one out and it just collects it over time. And again, it works in reverse too. So if you are salvaging, it's just a bar. And then if you are filling up ammo, it's just a bar. If you're repairing, it's just a bar. That could be the initial implementation just to test the water. And then, as you said, the next step is doing it yourself.
Like I know at CitizenCon, Paul asked me, did I think drones were coming? And I said no. And I meant, for remote controls, the drones that we're flying. But then CIG and the panel talk about drones, and they were just, everything they said about them was they were just automated. So yes, we got drones, but we didn't get drones. It's that kind of balancing act. So I think we'll get the automated first, and then we'll get the actual ones we control and remote ones a little later.
All right, Parker asks another question. He says, after talking to John Crew, does it seem the Crucible will be waiting almost as long as the Endeavour? No, I think this is not just from the talking to John Crew. I think this is other elements, but I think repair is clearly coming after base building. They are all linked now. Even them talking about how the Crucible is more of a manufacturing ship, kind of like what they talked about with the Assault, the Ironclad Assault. So I honestly think once base building is in, that could literally be the very next profession, repair and more salvage stuff, because they are already interlinked so closely. It would be very easy to keep doing that and finish those two systems afterwards. Plus, if you think about it, doing repair gives you a whole nother second system of ships and vehicles and stuff like that. So again, as Algared and I will be doing, I'd be looking at to see what vehicles they mention. So if we get a new repair ship or vehicle, then they're clearly working on that type of gameplay. So whatever ships come out, it's a real telltale sign now, and that is something that came out from that conversation with John Crew and that. Like something from design comes down, they say, we need a ship that does this, and then they make a ship for it or vehicle for it.
Yep. And then the law team come in and write the law for it.
So even John Crew's got a boss, so to speak. And I'm not saying Chris Roberts. I'm saying there's someone else in CIG that affects him. Just as he passes the ship off to someone else and they have to do something with it, it's all different teams interconnected. So someone from design or some team from design passes something down to him, and he just goes off with his team and does that. So
and I could imagine there's some things it's we want you to do this, and you'll come back and say no, we can't do that because boom, 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 and then it gets passed up to someone else, and they go, oh yep, now got it. That lots of moving parts. It's not just a one-way traffic. So yeah. I 100% agree with what you're saying there. Citizen Ninja, do you think CIG might eventually sell ship components and ship weapons?
Oh, I hope not. I really hope not.
I don't think so.
No,
and the reason I say that is they used to sell them on the store.
I think,
and then they removed them.
I think if you could, the only way I could ever see them doing is, you know how you used to be able to customize, they did as the test for the 300 series, if you could customize before you purchase. That would be the only thing I could see them doing. Not on their own.
They used to sell them on their own.
But I think that was more of a time period where they were testing the store a lot.
Yep.
You got to think about that was a really long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
The very first,
buy, shields and coolers and retractor beams and
the very first test of the store was they put up all these fish tank items and just got us to buy them for nothing. That's how long I've been around, right? Because they needed to make sure the store worked, and then they put up guns and components, like you said. I don't remember there being components, but maybe I'm wrong. But I do remember them selling guns and missiles. And stuff like that.
They definitely sold shields and tractor beams and things like that. So yeah, but they removed them, and if you had them in your account, they just gave you credits, store credits for them.
Yes, and Monster Avi, you can still customize the 300, but I meant that as into all ships. But yes, you get my point.
Yeah, the 300 customization was a test bed to see how, toying around, okay, this is what we can do, and let's see how it work, and can we apply that to every other ship. But there was a period where you could buy individual guns, repeaters, and stuff like that.
Architect TV on Twitch is saying Elwin, a ship designer, told him that they're not going to be doing the 300 style of sail again. So obviously that was a failed test. Yep. But again, I wouldn't have picked the 300 series personally. It's a different style of ship. Again, maybe they just picked a ship at random, but like I would have picked a more middle of the road ship. Again, I wouldn't have picked Drake and I wouldn't have picked Origin. I would have picked something in the middle because again, I didn't buy any of them because the 300 series doesn't appeal to me at all. Again, I could probably see it now if you wanted a 315p, but that'd be the only one I could get behind. But yeah.
The other thing was it was also quite a long while ago as well. So the game has developed a whole pipe, a heap since they were doing that type of stuff. So
yeah.
But it was just a toying with what they can do. Can we change the decor? Can we change the
Yeah, I think that was
the role of a ship.
Well, again, like all the things I learned at CitizenCon, like is just how much they are experimenting with stuff to see if it works. They're in, like, if you think of it from their perspective, they really are in uncharted territory. Like no one's got this far without a publisher, because a lot of this stuff is actually done by publishers. The marketing and all that is all done by them. So they're having to pull in people that they normally wouldn't associate with, right? And then but again, being the developer and the publisher, it's allowing them to experiment on things that they'd normally just be told to do things by marketing. Let's be honest. You, as well as everyone else watching, and myself, we've seen games go to utter shit because of marketing teams. I can list at least 10 off the top of my head, right? Where the marketing team has stuffed up or just seen dollar signs and ruined everything, right? So it does, I think that's the advantage, is the fact that they are doing everything. If someone, you've seen it when we do speculation. If I say something crazy, Algared can go, no, you're crazy, and kind of stop it before it kind of goes any further. I think that's the advantage of them doing this, is that if marketing comes up with something crazy or design or whatever the team is, another team can go, hey, that's crazy. And at least like where it's a lot harder to do, where the marketing just goes, do as you're told.
Yeah. Or instead of, say, marketing bringing it out for everything, they say, let's test. Let's have a, okay, you got that idea. Let's give it a test. Let's put it on something and see how it goes. And does it work? Does it not work? What's the advantage? What's the disadvantage? And yeah, so there's
it's a little bit like that game I was telling you about yesterday. I'm actually just talk about that a little bit, because that looks like a really good game, actually. So just real quickly, I sent Algared a trailer for Exodus. It's been made by Mass Effect 2 or BioWare devs that all left EA, and now they've left and made their own company. You can just see all the bureaucracy has disappeared, and the game looks amazing. If you're a Mass Effect 2 fan, you need to go check out Exodus. I'll just leave it at that. But it looks, especially if you like sci-fi games and stuff like that. But it's all single player, but yeah, it looks really cool.
The way you talk about it, to me, feels like the way I get the impression the guys the German CIG team, when they left
Crytek.
Crytek, and then came to CIG, it was as if they were told, just show us what you can do, and they just went to town.
Yeah, because they've been well, again, from the people I've talked to that were from there, they had been told so many times that that's not relevant. We don't need that right now.
We don't need it.
Where CIG's the other way, like that was the other thing I learned, is they just let you explore. They feed your creativity, and it goes the other way too. If you're sick, they want you to stay home and get better so you don't make other people sick. Like there's a human element.
When you're well.
Yeah, there's a human element to that company that other companies just don't have. Like the example I give is Google. Their opening thing was "Don't be evil." Well, they failed there, didn't they? You know, they've got so big now that you can, unless you call up Google and actually talk to a person, you tend to get something AI based, and they just you fall through the cracks. And so the human element gets lost on a lot of these bigger companies. And I think that was the thing that really surprised me, how big CIG has now gotten. They have somehow retained that, and I find that extraordinarily awesome. You know, other big companies lose that, and they just become, you know, again, like the whole reason I left the gaming industry was because of the money element. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I couldn't explore the whole publisher thing. So when Chris came out with that original Kickstarter video, I was on board straight away. I was like, just take my money, do what you want to do, because I want someone to be able to do what they want to do in the gaming industry.
Yeah, and I think, like, when those German guys came across to CIG, they were given so much freedom. It was like a breath of fresh air for them, and it just opened the floodgates. I remember when Chris was talking about the pupil to planet, so where they could go, oh, look, we can go from here and go all the way up, and no change of stream. It's just
pupil to planet.
It was like Chris, and Chris said, I didn't think we'd get there for 3 or 4 years, and these guys just did it on their own back in their free time, kind of sort of, hey, look what we can do. And I was like, yep. And basically, that pivoted the whole game. It kind of put everything on its head. But it was one of those key moments where giving people that creativity and that ability to work go where you can within X confines, whatever they are, just pay dividend. And we see it all the time. And I think the other thing that came out talking to people at CIG was the classic comment that CIG is not just building the games he's always wanted to play, but he's also building a company that he's always wanted to work in. And I think when you've got that focus from the top down, that's what builds that.
We never would have got
company
that.
Being a place B. Yeah,
we would have never got that perspective either if it hadn't been there.
No.
Yeah, I learned a lot on that trip. Like that really as a change of perspective is how I put it. Like the different perspective we actually had being there has been invaluable. I now can look at things from a different angle that I couldn't look at before, and I've got to try and retain that going forward. So yeah,
and that is a hard thing to do when you are removed. But certainly, it was certainly one of those things being there that you did get that different insight. Citizen Ninja.
Yep. Pissball Pete's in the chat, by the way. Hey, mate.
Hey, Pete. So Citizen Ninja says, do you... that was the one we've just answered, the components and weapons and stuff. Hook 2005 says, are you going to upgrade your pack this year? I would like to, but it's going to be one of those things I can leave until I got the funds to do it.
I don't think the mule's legs can take it, personally. It's too heavy as it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a World War II joke, if you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, most people miss that. That's fine.
Kudofix says, why do you guys think an economy wipe would have any effect? As of now, economy doesn't really any group effect other than yourself, since trading, building, other money sinks don't exist.
So it's a problem with the patch. A lot of the missions don't work. So it's again, when they put 4.0 out, it's had unforeseen errors, and so the only way to remove those errors is to do another wipe to get the economy back up a bit, because you need to have that starting cash that you start with. And there's some people that have just absolutely exploded in cash, and there's other people where they've just had so many errors they've got none left, and those errors come from literally the missions not being hooked up. And literally they say, Chris said that in his Stand for the Chairman letter, that the missions don't work. He literally said that.
So look, I expect there's going to be wipes. I expect there's going to be... I always expect a wipe. Every patch I'm expecting a wipe. If I get a wipe, I'm not surprised. If I don't get a wipe, hey, awesome.
If there's not a wipe, there needs to be an option to do a personal wipe to get your money reset, because I know I'm not the only one. I know there's people that have made heaps from the duping as well, and the fact that there's been duping, that always tells me that a wipe's on the cards, because every time people dupe, they tend to wipe stuff. So
yeah. So when are exploits, expect a wipe. And if the exploits are too rampant, you'll get a wipe. So
all right, we're down to 6.
As I said,
we're down to 6 questions, guys. So please feel free to get your questions in if you would like one answered, because we're getting down to...
I'm going to suggest is the bot still working? I will ask.
Yes.
Just double checking, because sometimes it does tank on us. Yep.
She's running.
But yeah, so get those questions in, because the stream lives and dies on what discussion we can make from your questions. But yeah, so Crusader Maximus, or Maximilian, sorry, says, do you think that with the Carrack seeming to be getting a lot of love, it might receive a base building module for the cargo bay? No. In my initial thought.
I'm replying to a chat message. Who's this? What was this question?
So, do you think that with the Carrack seemingly getting a lot of love, it might receive a base building module for the cargo bay?
Anything's possible, but there's nothing that points one way or the other, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I've always said to Algared, from what we can kind of see of most ships, if they already have functionality, it seems to be that it extends the functionality that it already has. So you kind of look at the Carrack, I would imagine them being cargo bays, so there's 4 of them, so you don't need any more cargo. But then you've also got the medical facilities, you've got repair facilities, and then you've got the cartography room. Now, that said, you mentioned base building. They've said that repair can be a part of manufacturing now, so never say never. I'll leave it at that.
I would base building seems to me too much for a ship that already does a lot. And I could see any modules that they give those cargo holds being things that, as you said, expand on. And that was the type of thing they did talk about back in the day.
There's nothing to say
that modules, hospital modules.
Yeah, but there's nothing to say that little, like, say they had some kind of small little manufacturing thing, and it could build that little thing that builds the houses, you know, the little trolley thing. So again, or you could just take one in the cargo bay. So there's no reason you can't do some kind of small base building with it. You just got to take the right stuff, you know. Like, again, look at what's announced, right? If you want to do base building with it, technically you could. You could just take the little trolley thing and then take all your resources in the cargo bay. So if that's what you want to do, already you can answer that question.
But in terms of the modules, you know, I'd go in what we've said in the past. There'll be, you know, and interestingly, the modules they talked about or the ideas with things that you just said. They expand the medical, they expand the cartography, they expand the scanning, they expand the science, they expand the living quarters. They were the types of modules they talked about for those things. And the last one that I heard any reference to those was when the big ballista came out, and John Crew said we could make a single cargo module that was big enough for that. He wasn't saying they would, he was just saying they could.
Well, I think with how the cargo already works, once they lower down, you could literally just drive the ballista in now. You know, so I think that it has gone that way. I think the thing that made that question is from me is now the adding of repair and manufacturing has kind of changed a little bit. So would it get like a small manufacturing module or something? It'd be kind of cool if you could just drop off a little module and it allowed you to build just some tiny little things, and then you could pick it back up later or something like that. So that could be interesting. Much like I said with the medical one, could you drop off a little module that's like a little medical base?
And I could see just thinking, I could see stuff where you build small weather stations or little things to, you know, putting down your science equipment or your testing equipment so you can gather information. But building, when I hear base building, I start to think of, you know, full on cities, and I don't see a Carrack.
No. I'm talking more like a Carrack dropping out. Well, a Carrack's an explorer, right? It goes out to the fringes. You could see that literally building the very first, and I'm talking like an emergency aid shelter type of thing.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere, because that's, you start with the emergency aid shelter, and that's got some real basic level resources, and then an actual base building ship comes in and builds from there. Right? Yeah.
And if you think of that, that's, you know, I can remember people talking about dropping a cargo module from a Carrack off as a standalone makeshift base, which is basically an emergency shelter.
Yep.
So
I can see the Carrack having a need to do a very small amount of base building. And again, if you can just take that little trolley thing, you saw what it could build. It had the power plant, it had the little house, like it only had 3 or 4 little buildings, but that's the start of an outpost. And that's I can see the Carrack doing that quite comfortably, even without the modules, because you can just take that little trolley thing.
Yeah, and well, if you look at what the little trolley thing could do, the house, the power plant, and that's about all it could do. That is your emergency shelter.
That's more than actually at the moment, but yeah.
But, you know, so, yeah.
Again,
that's an insult.
It really comes down to the amount of cargo that a Carrack can take. And I think the thing is that once you go really far out there, you're not going to have a lot of extra resources to build a big base with a Carrack, you know? Like, you've only got 4 cargo modules down there, so, like, it just... you're not going to be... Like, you're probably going to have enough to build 1 outpost. That's it, you know?
Yeah.
Or you're going to have to get somehow resupplied, so, yeah.
I've got to admit, my memory says it's 3 cargo modules, but it's been so long since I've actually... I love the Carrack, and I fly in it all the time, but I never go down and check up a cargo base. So
I think you are correct. I think it is 3, actually, not 4. I think you are right, actually.
But I just raise that because I know if it's wrong, people are going to say, oh, you know, and it's just... But one of those things, I use it all the time, but I never go down to the cargo hold and check. It's just...
Yeah.
So it's 3 or 4, but, you know, It is that thing, but the fact that there's 4 different ones does mean that they could have 4 different modules, and that increases or decreases the amount of cargo you've got. And as you said, if you're deep space exploring, you're going to be using a lot of your cargo hold, I imagine, for supplies so you can survive and supplies so you can repair, not necessarily supplies so you can go and build.
It goes the other way too, like we were saying about the ballista. Why the hell would you want to take a ballista on a Carrack?
Yeah.
Like, it's a long-range explorer.
Yeah.
We're going to go sightseeing in a ballista on another planet?
Yeah.
4 systems away? Like, makes no sense. You'd be far more likely to build something and then build a ballista than take up all that cargo space. Again, I think that's the really cool thing about base building. It might take a little bit of extra time, but boy, could it save your bacon in a pinch. Because you could actually all of a sudden start to build something small, start collecting the resources, repair your ship from there. Like it all of a sudden, you remember the whole thing about the Swiss Army knife when it first
Yep.
came out. It was like it just does all this shit when you're in a pinch. That's essentially what one of those little trolleys is going to allow you to do. I have X resources, but I have this little trolley that I can turn X resources into what I need.
Yeah, and you'll remember that they talked about in one of the last episodes last year, soft def, being able to repair from soft def. So
Yeah.
yesterday you crash for a reclaimer into the planet because you let it off.
Yeah.
Right? Soft def. Okay.
By the way, that's where I lost it when we went into Arena Commander. But yeah.
It was.
Fuck this shit.
I'm saying to X, you're flying the ship. We're about to crash. X, and I look across.
I couldn't hear him or anything.
But I look across at his character and I went, oh crap. But soft def ship. We're in a situation. We've got a little trolley. We build a small base. We build a mining thing. We start gathering the resources from the area. We can then repair that soft def ship.
Yeah.
So, as you said, in a pinch, it would save your bacon.
Well, again, it becomes a part of the story, does it not? Like think about all the frustrations about having, you spend an hour and a half to get somewhere sometimes earlier on in this game, and then you're just like, no, I'm done. But what if you didn't die? What if you could actually get out and it became a part of the adventure? It went from an action game to a survival game where it's like, okay, we've now got limited resources. How do we get back to civilization? That becomes a whole Emergent gameplay loop into itself. And I think it will be quite surprising, and some people will really, dare I say it, statistically enjoy that. Not statistically, massistically. Sorry, yeah, you get my point.
And in a weird way, I am looking forward to that really nasty, horrible survival gameplay.
I see you as one of those
flagellates. No, I'm not a flagellate. But and as Jar Jar says on YouTube, the patch has dropped.
Oh, really?
In PTU. So
there we go. That's good. Well, they did say in the next couple of hours, didn't they?
Yep.
So that means there should also be a PTU
update.
I'm just opening it now. Oh, okay. There's not one for me then.
Okay.
So, maybe I did something wrong. I'll have a look at that after stream. But yeah, I can't see it right now. But yeah, hopefully they did say they had a whole list of bug fixes and stuff like that. So hopefully they do fix a bunch of stuff.
And
have to wait and see.
And if you are in the PTU, don't forget, start at Area 18.
Yes, they did ask you to do that too. That's the other thing. I just realised I probably have to copy my account to the PTU. That's why it wasn't in that list when I just had a look. So let me have a look, because I bet you that's probably what you're going to do.
Yep.
2 seconds. Come on, load. Yeah, you got to copy it over to the PTU.
Yep.
So yeah, once you copy over to the PTU, then you should be able to do it. So just if you can't see it, that's what my problem was. I just assumed it was the preview updating, but no, it's a whole new channel again. And at one point during the end of last year, I had like 5 or 6 different copies of the game on my
and
I was like, man, I need to move my stuff around on my hard drive because it's taking up this whole hard drive.
I'm running out of memory space. Yes, because I've got 5 versions. Yeah.
But it's not small anitill when it's like installed to like 100 gigs. So like you have a
I need a terabyte hard drive to store all the Star Citizen versions that I need.
I do have I think it's a 1 terabyte or a 2 terabyte that is just for Star Citizen, and then I've got other drives for other things. But
very quickly, that's an insult. Yes, we did talk about the in case we missed it speculation of whether they'll have it this year.
What was that? Sorry, it was a question.
That's an insult said, have you speculated on whether there will be an in case you missed it sale this year? And yes, we have. Go back and have a look at the earlier discussion.
Here we go. Pissball Pete just linked me this, so we can have a look at this real quick. This is all the patch notes. So thank you, Pete. Yeah, that is a lot of fixes. Focus is stability, performance, and bug testing. Save Stant Chapter 2 event. Oh God, I forgot Save Stant even existed. It's been that long. Wow. We'll run through the PT Phase 4. This is a continuation of the event from 3.24 Pyro events. Known issues. Pyro, Courier missions. So yeah, a lot of the missions don't work. So this is what I was saying. Locations, AI, was a grazer, gameplay enabled handyman missions. Symbols to Pyro, Rock Caves. Ships and vehicles, stuff out of Ion, so there are lots of fixes for the Guardian, Anvil, Ballista, Nomad, Tumbril, Mantis, Aurora, blah, 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 F7C, just lots of little fixes there. But this is the big one, I think, is a lot of the missions. There's still known issues. But, like, again, everyone's going to have different things. I don't want to make this about the problems I've just been having, but I know a lot of other people. So if you're not having mission trouble, excellent. But I know a lot of people are, and that's why I brought it up. I know it sounds like I'm complaining specifically, and I can only talk about my own stuff from that regard, but like Algared said, he didn't have any trouble. But I know a lot of people that are, so yeah, that's why I brought it up.
And I even when I've talked to people, you know, it's been moving. Other people say, it's been horrid. And I think it really is the case. But I found it really interesting yesterday. We were both in the same server, and you were really struggling. Yeah. And I was like smooth as. Yeah. And it was like...
Might be a fresh reinstall time for me, I think, possibly. The prisoner said on Twitch chat there, 100+ fixes, I'm assuming he means Wikipedia said yesterday. Yeah, that's a lot of fixes, man. Yeah. I might have to do a full reinstall time, I think. Because I had some weird ones, like when we were going to Grimhex, because we're doing the Reclaimer stuff, I would go to walk to Grimhex, and it would warp me like 5 times past the planet. And so I'd look back and I'd be like halfway between, say, Crusader and Yeller, yet Algared could warp straight there, no problem. So I was just having these really weird issues where I was warping, like the warp markers were not where they meant to be and stuff like that. So yeah.
The hardest thing for me was actually finding where the landing bays were in Grimhex, because I never go to Grimhex. It's just one of those areas I don't like to frequent. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Not like those civilians who live out in the fringes.
That's what it's like. That's what you like to tell people.
I don't break my contracts. That's right. Yeah. Okay.
It's funny if you know what the contracts are, by the way, because the contracts are servitude. But anyway. All right.
Well, I don't enter into those contents. I just give them. Anyway, so Happy Hour Bob says, do you think they will eventually offer missions to have players go repair build for facilities in NPC points of interest? Yes.
Absolutely.
I actually see that.
Well, again, that's kind of how the whole misfortune thing came about, because we realized that what happens when someone destroys a building, it needs to be cleaned up, right? And so if you tailor a ship at that, or a vehicle, it makes a lot of sense. And even if you look at it from just on a player level, if I destroy Algared's sandcastle, someone's got to clean up the sandcastle so it can be built again. And why would you waste all those materials? And then the same thing by the NPCs. If you do a mission that requires you to blow up someone's base, the NPC is going to want to rebuild and clean up.
Well, to put it in more grounds that will help us as players. The emergency shelter has been destroyed, or it's worn down, or it's out of power, or the fuse is blown, or the door's been wrecked by the weather, or any of those factors. Those emergency shelters are going to need repairing. And so I 100% feel that's what those handyman missions are. They're fixing those minor repairs on those centers and spaces.
I think you're right. I think eventually, like the outposts that we have today will be able to be attacked and raided. And I think people will do that. And by the same token, to get it back up and running, either an NPC will pick up that mission or a player will pick up that mission to, you go out to Shubin Mining Facility 29 or whatever it's called, and they want you to rebuild the landing pad, or they want you to rebuild the vehicle bay, or whatever it is. That'll definitely be a thing eventually.
Yeah. And you'll have areas that are more isolated that just need, they don't have the supplies, so they can't manufacture fuses, or they can't repair such. So you're coming in with your stuff, you're coming in from outside with your gear already charged, and you're making those changes and restocking them and repairing. And so
you've got to, I know it sounds weird, but you do need to make those things. So if someone is just that base building guy, or they're just that repair guy, they're going to have the missions have to be there for them to do. And a lot of people have sat there for years kind of going, oh, this is going to be a thing that I'm not going to do as much as I want. But I think idealistically, you might have to travel to get there to do some of
Yeah.
these things, but you will be able to continually do these things if that's what you want to do. And I think
Yeah.
if you kind of push that out to any type of gameplay, I think that will be a thing. So can I just ship my butt off every day of the week? Yeah, I think eventually we're able to, but in some cases you will have to travel.
Yeah. 100%. And I think that's the same with every mission, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's an insult. Has all this PvE versus PvP discussion been a distraction from the reality that Pyro is really for orgs?
Ooh, I just think because it has this lawless tag on it, people have put a PvP tag on it. But I'm going to be honest, you can do everything you want to do in Stanton in there, and there is nothing, and at the moment, I mean nothing, other than you go to jail if you are lawless. So you could literally be lawless in Stanton, go straight through the jump point, and they can't get you. You know, so you worried about them being lawless over there. Eventually, if it becomes this thing where, oh, I'm not going to Pyro because it's all lawless, I'll come to you. Don't worry, I'll find you. You know, and it's about to get, well, I guess you want to call it worse then for those people, is once scanning comes in, because at the moment, if you look at what pirates actually go through, like I'm kind of, I consider myself my friends with Agent Letty and the Mongrel Squad, the Australian guys that do a lot of the pirating stuff, as I am with Moist Noodle that does it as well, and there's a bunch of other content creators that do it as well. You know, you've got Space Cutlet and Voidy Vids. There's a whole bunch of people that do it, right? But long story short, they have to do that all manually right now. Once scanning comes in, you are not going to have this luxury of, I'm in my cargo ship going A to B. I'm going out on my own and doing salvage. No, escorting is going to become a real thing. And it's like I've been saying it, but I know you've been saying it too. Once scanning comes in, the whole game is going to where they want it to be, which was that whole call loop. Scanning is like, once base building is in, if I had to pick a gameplay that would change the game more than any other, it is 100% scanning. And I think, I don't know, I'll put that to you. Someone did put that to us earlier in the stream, but the more I think about it, I think that has to be the one that comes first.
Yeah, look, I agree. And in terms of the PvE stuff, or, you know, if you're someone who just wants PvE stuff, yeah, if you're not in the mood to do PvP, you stay near where the security forces are. You stay in those safer areas. I often talk about Daok. Now, I love being in the Daok PvP area, the realm versus realm area. And if I was just wanting to do the PvE missions that were in there, I'd stay close to where the realm was strongest. If I was in the mood to venture far, I'd amble across to the areas controlled by the other realms. And it's just the way it is. If you don't want to get ganked, then don't go into the PvP area at all, or stay where it's really safe. Stay in the local areas. And
I think that's the other thing, though, like that I really want to stress. If you are not a PvP centric person, let's just say I'm shit at combat, right? Play to your strengths, because by the same token, if you are shit at combat, you're going to know someone that is good at it, right? And they're going to want you for what you're good at.
Yep.
And I think that's the other part. It's that the whole cart before the horse problem. We don't all know what we're good at yet, right? So, look, there's a guy I'm trying to remember what org this was in. Was the guy, I think it was one of the orgs that I was talking to, and there was one of their guys was this huge combat guy, right? And then the engineering stuff dropped in the test, right? And he just found all of a sudden he was really loving the engineering stuff, and it's not really fully fleshed out or anything. And he goes to one of the guys that were talking to me and literally said, I think I'm going to become an engineering guy. And this is a guy that was like heavily combat, just realizing that was this other gameplay that he kind of preferred. I think that's the other part of it. Right now, there's really predominantly combat. I think you're going to find we have a lot of combat people right now because that's really all there is. I think that number will drop as the game diversifies. And you'll find that, like, the PvP will come down quite a lot. So even in those early days when scanning comes in and piracy is really high and escorting's really high, as more things come in, it's like the flavor of the month type of thing. It'll water down and balance out.
And you certainly got that idea when I was talking base building and manufacturing at CitizenCon. But you'll need to have people who are specialised in those areas to actually do stuff. And so, if you're specialised in the area, you're not going.
I'm just sitting here thinking, like, it can go the other way too. Like, I'm amazing at building mods for science, but I bloody hate science. Like, it could go that way too, where you're just naturally gifted and like a savant in making these modules, but you just can't stand it. But every time you need cash, you're going to go make those mods, aren't you? Because you need cash. So yeah, it could be really interesting. It could work with you and against you.
Like I know in other MMOs, I think I did it in Star Trek: The Old Republic. I certainly did it in Daok. And I certainly did it in WoW.
When did you play Star Trek: The Old Republic? That game sounds amazing. I'd love to play that. When did that one come out?
Star Wars.
There we go.
Republic, sorry. Yeah, Star Trek: The Old Republic. There was no Old Republic.
You'd be in trouble if that thing came out. There's a bit of a licensing issue there, bro. Anyway.
But I would certainly spend time doing the crafting trees and doing certain trees in the crafting. And I know in Loctro, you ended up not being able to do everything just because it took so much time.
Be the same in this.
Org,
you can already tell that in this, can you not? Yeah. With the whole base building, the whole thing. Me and you were sitting there. I remember, like I think at one part during the presentation, I just leaned over and go, "How many people is this going to take? 100, 200?" Like I literally said something like that to you. It was something to that effect, like 10, 20, 100, 50, 5,000. It just seems so big. So.
And you're looking at the things and the levels you've got to do. You got and even looking at ships, you've got to get the blueprint, and then you've got to mass up that blueprint, and then once you've got that done, then you can go to the next one. And so it's just like crafting in any other MMO. It's just you to be the top of that game takes time to get there, and you're not going to be able to do everything as much as you may want to. You'll just be standing at a terminal otherwise. Just
so I think to kind of round this off, what I'm trying to say is, if you are into something, you might know that you're not into it yet because it doesn't exist, but by the same token, everyone is going to have their place in this game. It's just heavily combat based right now, and I think that's, let's be honest, the other part of this discussion is why you're hearing so much blowback from the master mode suck and all that, is because it's changing. It's been this way for 10 years, and you've been hearing it from so many content creators the last 12 months. Go back to the way it was so much better back then, because people don't like change. But it has to change to get all those other gameplays in. And I don't know about you, if you can sit there and go, I want 50 different gameplays, or do I just want combat and this in this narrow little blinker field? I think the answer is obvious. You want that broader appeal, because then more people will play, and it will be this big living universe that we all want. And the fact that they have those blinders and they're so narrow, it just shows me that they cannot see outside. And especially when I've heard some of these content creators talk and watch their videos, I can literally start watching the video and they'll make an assumption, and that assumption, like when you and I speculate, right? And if you speculate on something that's wrong from the beginning, everything else that you think about after that is wrong.
Yeah.
This is why you don't speculate on it. But long story short, if your assumption at the start is wrong, everything that follows is broken, because that initial thing was broken.
Yeah.
And that's why speculation is so hard. You need to have people to check you and tell you that you're wrong. And if you don't have someone in your community that can stand up to you and tell that you are wrong, and I actively encourage that. Like, if someone comes out to us and messages me on this, we have that, don't we, Aaron? Someone will say to us, "You were wrong in this video," or "You said this," and we will correct it. I had to delete a video a couple of months back because I said something wrong. So I actually edited it out, took out what I said that was wrong, and then re-uploaded the video. Because it's not about that I said something wrong. It's I don't want that incorrect information getting out. So I have to self-correct and censor myself.
It is one of the problems that we do get if we say something wrong, because people do see us as people who have a lowdown on stuff.
Yeah.
Then we're feeding that wrong information, and so we do try to correct and.
But only human, yeah.
Yeah, and get the stuff right. But yeah.
So again, we we used to try and get everything correct, and there's just now so much in the game. I've been saying this for probably 3 years now. I don't know. We have moved to a truth status. Was that if we're wrong, just tell me I'm wrong, and we'll try and get to the truth, because there's just too much to retain now. It's too big of a game.
Indeed.
There's no other way around it. All right, next question, mate. When you're ready.
That's an insult. That's an insult. It says, any thoughts on why ship refining hasn't been done yet? Capacity to complete, maybe. But it seems relatively simple from a tech perspective. I think the refining we've got in game at the moment is a stopgap. It's at the stations because it's just automated.
Yeah.
And the stuff that and yes, they could put it onto our ships and just be automated, but they don't want it to be like that. You look at this, the things they do in crafting, or the things they do in repair, or the things they do in salvage, and how small they are at the moment, but how they keep expanding, and how mining kept expanding. That's the same type of thing we're going to see with refining.
I think the priority order changed as well too.
Mm.
Yes, refining seemed like it was really close, but then they came in and it all moved to base building, and a lot of things got moved back. But that doesn't mean eventually when they come back around to mining and salvage that refining won't come back in. And it's like Algared said, they talked about it being the way it is right now. You put it on a ship, but then it's more active. It'll also be quicker, so it's going to have a massive advantage to actually having refining a ships as opposed to refining at a station. Yeah, I don't disagree with anything Algared said there. He's on point.
Yep. A name so long to annoy anyone has a question.
I fucking hate that name. I fucking hate that name. Like it's so blissfully perfectly trolly, and he knows it. That's I can see him smirking right now as he hears me talking about this, and I love him and hate him at the same time, and I don't even know him. Right? Yeah.
When do you think the Reclaimer will just get a complete rework, because it just keeps getting worse and worse?
You'll have to watch the video.
Yeah. Yeah, because we picked up quite a few things that certainly will cause it to need change.
You went back and spent 3 hours going over it with a fine-tooth comb.
I did.
When I read that, I went, "Are you crazy?" But again,
he says, "Why haven't you done?
Yeah,
are you ready?" And I said, "Are you ready for this one and this one?" I said, "No, I've only done this one. I finished doing the Reclaimer," and I went, "Oh crap, it's."
Yeah, because we're gonna do another one as well. So we'll have to get onto that one too later.
But it had been a long time since I'd really gone over the Reclaimer and checked out every little crevice that I could find, and tried to find out where I thought components would be, what way they were, what had changed, what hadn't changed. And yeah, there were some things that I hadn't even I'd checked out ages ago, but it had been so long since I'd really looked at them.
I think it
certainly gave me a new perspective.
I think it was a good one to pick though, because it really is one of the most influx ships I've ever seen, because it's just been in game for so long and been left for so long.
Yeah.
And I think there's not many ships like that, because again, like I say in the video, that ship taught them probably. I'm trying to think of another ship that would have taught them as much. There were ships that have taught them things, right? But I don't think there's one that taught them as much as that ship has taught them about what to do and what not to do. We do go over that in the video, but yeah.
In terms of the big ships, the only two ships I think have given them that much grief in terms of once they're in game were the Starfarer and it, because they were both big, lumbering, bulky ships. They both had the same similar problems. Neither of them really had their gameplay. They're rabbit warrens. There's issues with them left, right, and centre. Both of those ships are destined for a rework.
I'll give you that. I think I was sitting here trying to think of other ships that were like that, and I think there's a few that have dodged bullets because of their like the Caterpillars obviously dodged that bullet, but it would have been in that. You can see very quickly. You can see very quickly it would have got in there. If they'd done more work on it, it would have gone to shit real quick. So yeah, they got lucky on that one. But yeah, I'll give you those for sure.
So yeah, we expect it.
I'm going to kick this one to the front of the queue because it's from Can. He says, question, can they bring the scanning stuff before CIG addresses the time to kill and time to disable on large multi-crew being seconds, not minutes, when you're talking putting 5+ players in an industrial ship? It's really ironic. It might actually help them balance some of that stuff, so I can't say why not. But they were working on scanning
Hmm.
a lot last year. And if you go into 4.0 and you're in a ship and you press the V key when you're in SCM or double click the middle mouse wheel, there is a new scanning mode there. And the ships you're looking at will go purple. And you can get more details of them. So there is definitely more scanning functionality already in there, but I think we're about to get a lot more. It just, I've been saying for how many years now have I been saying this, Algared? And I know you're saying it too, but like I feel like a broken record at this point. It must be like 3 or 4 years. Like, it is the number one thing we need that'll just totally change how the game works. And it is that it is the core game loop of the entire game is good guys, bad guys, something that's worth something around in circles.
That's generally the basic of any game, isn't it? But
yeah,
I'm after this, my enemy's after this.
Yep.
We're going to fight over it.
Yep.
Whether it's PvP, whether it's PvE, same
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
But to pick up at the idea of the big cargo ship or big industrial ship being ganked or attacked by attackers, and its time to kill being really short, how consider you get the metrics to balance it if they're not being attacked?
Yeah.
And so having that scanning which enables them to be attacked, yes, it's going to suck for you as the
They could probably test it a
guy,
little
but
bit
it does
internally and get
Yep.
get a baseline.
Yeah.
But I would definitely think you would need that to hone it in.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've obviously got some kind of baseline internally, but I guarantee you,
Yep.
once they release it, it will change.
And we know the QA will be doing stuff like that and testing doing the
Mm.
balance testing and looking at that. But then once it goes in the wider community, we'll do more balance testing and look at it, just like every MMO you've ever come across and played. You know, a number of times I had friends who would complain that, oh, the balance test has ruined this character. They've nerfed this, but given this, and
So Krivicus in YouTube chat says the Aquila has a much bigger range on the scanner now too. Yeah, I've been noticing that on a lot of the scanning ships, Terrapins, Polaris, Carrack, they all have bigger ranges now and stuff like that. So they are, again, they've been looking at scanning. I think they've just, whatever the actual gameplay part of it is the part that's not turned on. And once that kind of gets on and you can actively find people, the whole game is going to change. You think piracy's bad now? You got no clue. Once that comes in, you're going to want to have your combat friends beside you all the time. But by the same token, to make money, they're going to want to be with you as well, so you can get the resources to where they need to go, whatever that resource happens to be. But,
yeah. So Monster Avery has a question. He says, what's your take on the dupe versus weapons components going back to default on insurance repairs? I don't know, but I like it going back to default, especially considering I expect more wipes later on anyway.
that was always a part of the plan.
Yeah.
It's been that way for the longest time.
The original plan was your basic insurance would give you the ship as it was when you bought it.
Yep. And they even said that they were talking about possibility of paying a little bit extra to update the default.
Yep. And I could see that because it's a money sink. It adds to the money sink. You want to change the ship? Okay, fine. If you don't upgrade your insurance and the components on, you lose them, you've got to put them back.
And it allows you to customize it to how you want it to be.
Yeah. So yeah, like you, I kind of like it going back to default. I think Privatus, how do you think they'll be able to work out the economy balancing without doing more whites? Is that the question you jumped to the front of a queue before?
No,
I can't remember.
No, that was not.
So Krivisus has a question. How do you think they will be able to work on the economy balancing without doing more wipes?
I think a lot of it is obviously simulated with what the old Quanta system was. I know they've renamed it now, but I can't remember what they called it. Was it Star Economy or something? Everything's Star something, but whatever.
Star Economy, probably.
Yeah, something like that. But again, they would have tested that thoroughly in the background, but obviously they're going to have to change weight values and stuff like that over time, because a real environment is never the same as a simulated one. But I think that they would have been doing a lot of simulations in the background, and I think a lot of the way the prices are going up is indicative of what they've found. They were either too cheap or they didn't work in that way or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, and I expect they're going to do more ropes anyway. So
Not to mention having two systems is going to be different to having 5 as in different to having 200, or however many they end up having. That's going to change the whole system. Like just one system is going to be different. You get what I mean? Like it changes how far you got to travel. It's going to travel what resources are available, all that type of thing. Every time you add a new resource in, the whole systems, the whole simulation is going to change.
Yeah. And so if they, and those types of things, if they feel it's too unbalanced and they need to reset it, they'll reset it. It's just, get used to it. I know they say they don't want to do it, but
yeah, like Algared's kind of essentially saying, I've always looked at this as an extremely early access, and we are essentially a part of the development team from that testing, and most of us that have been here for long enough realize that, and you do have to have a certain maturity when you play this game because you're going in warts and all bugs and all that stuff. Yes, it's infuriating at times because we are human and we just want to play a game, but I always try to keep that in the back of my mind that it's not a real game yet. And until they hit that live 1.0 button type thing, it's not at a even reasonable playable state, And I even think when 1.0 goes live, it's still going to have a lot of issues. But
yep. So Major 2501 says, question. I heard this year CIG was going to make this year the year to concentrate on bug fixes. I fell off my chair when I heard this. Is this true? And if so, can we pinch him, please?
I think they're realizing that Star System for a really long time has kind of been left to languish a lot. And I think they're also realizing that because it's in a live environment, you have to do it more like a stabilized thing because of how frustrated people get. Like, it's kind of like what I just explained before. Yep. If you can't actively keep playing, you get annoyed. And we even heard comments earlier today where some guy says, "Oh, I haven't played the game in 3 months." There are I can't tell you, and I know you have had this happen as well, where you bring a new friend in, you show him the game, and something happens, and he just leaves and never comes back. I've got a friend that basically comes back every 2 to 3 years, and he'll play it once and then leaves again. And it's because he goes, "Oh, this is still not ready. It's not cooked," or whatever. And it's always been something stupid like I think one of the times was he ended up in prison because he touched a landing pad, so the turret blasted the shit out of him and sent him to jail. And then he was stuck in jail, and I couldn't get to him, so I couldn't help him get out of there quickly. So he just got frustrated and left.
Yep, 15 minutes. No, I'm done.
He didn't. What did he do that deserved a 15 minutes punishment? And that's how it's been a lot of the time in the game over the last long time.
For no fault of your own, you'd get a crime stat or something. So
yeah, and that happened to me too. So I know how to fix it, but a new player doesn't know how to do that. They don't know the loopholes, and I think that's a thing that you and I forget a lot because we've been here for so long. We just naturally know these loopholes and the fixes and the workarounds and stuff like that. But a normal person is not prepared to put up with it. They don't have the time to do that. Like again, we're seeing it with the game as a whole. Like when I talked about me and Algared would take an hour and a half to get somewhere and get set up to do something. That's not a joke. It used to be like that, and now they're bringing all the times down because most people don't have half an hour to spend on a game, let alone an hour and a half just to get there.
And that and you've seen them talk. I've heard them talk about. They still want those distances to feel like they're real, but they also are acknowledging that it's a game.
Yeah.
And they want to bring those times down, but also give that sense of. So that part of the changes they're bringing in with the flight modes and that master mode type flight or the QM flight or the. Those changes do cause frustrations. I was sitting here yesterday trying to jump, and I'm going, "Why aren't I jumping? I'd forgotten that simple change. It was now right-click on the mouse button to actually do the jump rather than holding B like it used to be. So sometimes you just forget." Pudofix says, "Do you guys expect to see base building on the live version of the game? Eventually. I expect it within this year, personally.
Well, we got told it was a lot closer than we think. So
Mm.
we'll have to wait and see on that one.
But I based on the fact that they talked about the build,
Mm.
and everything seemed to say it was ready. But it's not sold.
Mm.
It's probably the first ship they've talked about and announced and everything else where they haven't even put it up on preview sales. So I tend to think that ship's is going to come out when they bring out base building. And
absolutely, and I think the plan was for CitizenCon, and they missed the window.
So yeah, I expect it. As you said, it's sooner than we think, and I think that ship gives an indication of how soon it is. But that's just guessing on my part. But taking the information we've got and kind of trying to join the dots.
Best laid plans.
Caltemp says, do you think that with all the discussion around multi-crew blades and NPC crew, that they will still push hard with engineering? Yeah. I think you can see that just in the Polaris. The Polaris has its fuse boxes. There are all scattered throughout the ship. Most fuse boxes take 3 fuses, some take 2.
Yeah.
And there's space on your Polaris is to add another 7 fuses to those boxes.
Engineering was planned for 4.0. I definitely think it'll be in. Essentially, the thing is like, oh, we were trying to get all this stuff into 4.0, didn't make it. Well, that's all the stuff that's going to come in. That's still going to be a part of the plan. They're not just going to go, oh, that didn't make it into the pie crust. We'll just cut all the crust off and throw that away. No, they're going to try and stuff it all in just after the fact.
Yeah, so, and you look at the Polaris. You've got the fuse boxes. You've also got the relay stations. They look like those relay points look like they've got something that goes in them. So it's not a fuse because fuses don't fit. But so you've got 2 elements scattered throughout the ship that are linked to engineering. If that's not telling you engineering is coming soon, I don't know what does.
Yeah. So engineering, scanning, base building. I think that's definitely the 3 that would be on the cards. I think within, I would say, halfway through this year at the latest, I would expect. I think the biggest tip is, like you said, the Starlancer build. Never sold, announced. Never seen that before, have we? Like, we're like, what is it? We're in the 3rd month since it was announced. That's just a first, right across the board. So no CCU, which also implied that it was meant to be sold straight away. No ETA on when it's coming. Yet we have the TAC that's there that was sold and roughly told that it was going in being built in by the Blue Silhouette video, and we're assuming around Invictus, right? So you add all the dots together, it's a weird situation. Like again, first.
Like we say, it's the first time I can recall them doing a concept of a ship and not selling the concept. The only other time I can ever recall them doing anything similar to that was the RSI Pegasus, which they brought out to say, hey, this is a new carrier. And that was never to a ship that was intended to be sold.
True.
But that's the only other ship I can ever recall them doing it on.
Yeah.
I cannot think of any other ship.
Yeah, I think that wrong. I think there's more of them talking about storyline, but they also never sold it. So true, or never even hinted that it would be sold. Where this is different because it's heavily implied it's going to be sold at some point. So I can see the similarities, but again, it's still different. It's still a first.
Yeah, it is. It is very different. But that's the only other time I can think of them ever talking about a new ship. And
I'll give you that.
But in terms of concept ships, the build is the only one I can recall. Like I said, I could be wrong, but I can't think of one.
Also, if you've got a ship above that, like a Galaxy or a Pioneer, I assume you'll get one of those as a liner. Or even, well, they don't have a base builder below it, do they? But again, never say never. Like I actually think that may be a thing. A smaller base builder might be another ship that we're getting coming down the line. We'll see. But yeah,
Yeah.
clearly,
Or even, but well, we know if it's a trolley, but
yeah.
I could see a vehicle, I could see a ship, like it's a whole host of stuff. So yeah.
Let's wait and see. All right, Carlos72
Um,
says, no, that's the one we just did. So Circivus says, what changes to the Liberator would you make now with more knowledge of the plans for the future? I was thinking about the ship spawning and wondering how they would do it. I still think my thoughts have not changed on that, Algared. Would yours be the same, where a ship that does ships and vehicles, then we get the Ironclad Assault that just does vehicles? I'm assuming we're about to get another one sooner or later that just does ships. And we kind of said that from way back when the Ironclad Assault came out. That just confirmed it for me.
Yep.
But we could be wrong, but it makes a lot of sense to have one that just does ships.
Yep. Our views on the Liberator were always that it was a shipping ship.
Yep.
So
whether it's a Liberator variant or it's a whole different ship, like what happened with the Ironclad, totally possible. But I wouldn't rule anything out until it's announced. But yeah, I can totally see that eventually being a thing, and a lot of people moving on from their Liberator or whatever because of it. But also, by the same token, that's probably why the Liberator is more expensive than the Ironclad. So you can't go backwards, so to speak. But again, I think that's the other thing that's really going to come out in time is, and I even noticed it a lot when the first PTEs were going up at the end of the year, the Drake ships just didn't have the components that, say, an Origin ship did, where you could just get an Origin ship and the whole ride was smooth as. You could, there were times where I had to turn things off and on in a Drake ship just to get the warp drive working. Now, that could have been bugs, but that's just how it felt, right? And so it made me start to think, yeah, Drake, and again, you can look on paper, the Drake ones don't have as good as components. They tend to be more civilian, industrial, and then you look at the some of the ones in the Origin ones, they're the higher class. They're not all military or anything, but they just a higher grade is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
They're more like A's and B's as opposed to D's and C's and stuff like that. So
yeah. Now that was one of the things that I noticed with the Reclaimer, like the Reclaimers getting capital components, shields, and coolers to go along with the power plant. And they're bespoke. They're bespoke. I think the shields are bespoke industrial.
So is this what ship was this? What ship was this again?
Reclaimer.
Right. Okay.
Bespoke size 4 industrial.
Interesting.
Grade C. I think from memory, and I think the cooler was civilian grade C, a bespoke size 4. Now, down the track, does that mean I can't change that to a grade B or a grade A, or will they have versions?
If they're bespoke,
and if they're bespoke, that says understanding is they can't.
So the original thing was they all have something bespoke. So you take the 890 jump, it's the engines, because that's how they can balance it. Right, it's the same thing with the Polaris. It's its engines. In the Reclaimer, it was always its power plant. And one of the things you realize very quickly with the power plant was you couldn't have 3 of the top level shields. You could have 2, and then the third one had to be something else, because again, it made it weaker. Right, so they can use whatever they make bespoke. It allows them to kind of balance that capital ship from becoming too powerful.
So it's not super tanky or super shieldy or all that, and you've got to balance your energy usage to fit that. The other thing I noticed was they in the components thing on the Mobilglass, the Polaris's, I think its shields are also listed. They're bespoke.
Could be placeholders as well until those components are actually invented. So yeah.
But you certainly, well, the shields for both of them, the Reclaimer and the Polaris, you couldn't unequip them. You couldn't swap them around, even though you had a Polaris and a Reclaimer's version. So,
real quick, I want to go back to the previous question. Crusader Maximilian says, Inforunners, wouldn't the one that just does ships be the Kraken? That is another one that does that. But I'm talking. So you got to remember there are different size classes. So you essentially got an S6 versus an S5. Essentially, is the different size classes. So, if you had one like the Kraken, I guess you could see the Kraken as that one because it does have four smalls and 2 mediums. But I'd be talking more about a ship that just has 4 to 5 smalls and nothing else. Right? And you've also got a massive cargo capacity on that Kraken. But yeah, it would tread on the Kraken a little bit. I don't know. Algared, how do you see that? Just I don't know.
Yeah, I could see the Kraken being seen as a large ship carrier. Yeah, but I've always thought I'd like to see a snub ship carrier, kind of like that, like you saw in Babylon 5 when the pirates kind of had their circular ship with all their fighters that would launch off a ring.
I just love how you hijack that guy's question. You're just like,
Yep.
yeah, I take your question, I reject it, and I supplement you with my own ship that I want to talk about. I'm just like, how do you have the skill to take someone's question and just
because you know,
going this way?
I've learned from a master.
Yeah, I do it too. I know I do it too. But it was just so funny.
You know, but I think there is room for more of those ships. We do have a capital. I think that the fact that the Kraken is a capital class.
You've essentially got to split the Kraken into 2, don't you? Because it's got 2 medium pads and then the 4 small pads. And again,
and it's also got that internal pad as well. So
with all and also can hold 10 dragonflies and a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So you could almost cut that Kraken into 3 ships, and you would get your different ships.
Yeah,
I think that's the interest.
And that's why I don't think the Kraken is that large ship. I think the Kraken is the capital version. It's like the be all and end all of that. That's kind of all the capital versions of that will do. And then you're looking down at the lower end. The Liberator does X number of ships that can't really. So it's that balancing act. And you'll see that.
That said, your snub carrier idea, we've talked about that before. The whole thing with the Fury when that came out, and I think after talking to Ben and John, if they don't do something based on it, because the talks we had about the TAC. Remember the TAC turret thing? Like if they don't do something like that along the line eventually, I'll be very surprised just from the things that they got very excited about the Furies acting as turrets.
The Furies acting as turrets and popping out and stuff. And they did, from memory, they also talked about there had been discussion of the way the Starfarer could I think we raised that as well when they were talking that. And they said, that had been something that had come up and had seen people talking about that. And so they clearly were thinking, we could do all this type. They had cool ideas for how the little Fury snub fighters would work and integrate. And I wouldn't be surprised if down the line, as you said, they do something.
Yeah.
Because it's cool and they like doing cool stuff.
Yeah. Right. Down to the last 5 questions. How are we going for time? Oh, we're just over 2 hours. Okay. We've got 4 questions. So if you want to get some questions in, get them in, or we wrap up early, which would be unusual, but we can do that. All right, Jar Jar Baroni says, what do you know about the rumored flying saucer? Where was this from? Where did you pull this rumor from, Jar Jar? But we know that they, when we talked to John and Ben, we thought it was always a Paul Jones thing, the flying saucer, because he showed it off, but it turns out they all want to do a flying saucer. And it had to do with the Argo logo being a circle. And I think basically what I said is I can see why Chris doesn't want to do a thing because it's too much of a change from the aesthetics of Argo that have been set up. I said to them, the only way I think you'd get away with it is if you made it an Argo starter ship because it's so much smaller. You may get it past, but I said to him, I don't think you'd ever get a big one done because it's too much of a departure. I think, was it you, Algared, that said, but it might be a lore thing? You might be able to get it through with lore or something like that. So,
I could see, you bring in a brand new race, you bring it, or one of the older, we've got this planet where there's an extinct race. We know that the race was there. We know they destroyed each other.
But wouldn't be able to be Argo though, unless it was a lore thing though. Yep. But I now remember you saying that actually is making it another. But they really want it to be Argo. They're caught. I think they get caught up on one thing and then they just get fixated and it's got to be that thing. But yeah, I don't know. That happens with me too. So I get caught up on things and can't let it go. But Yeah, I wouldn't say never, but yeah, I just thought it was always cool to be like. Then we made jokes about the flying saucer and the cow thing. You remember that?
Yep.
And making shirts for it. So yeah, I could definitely see it as some kind of lifter in the game or something like that. Like a smaller Argo starter ship is where I would have gone with it. But hey, whatever they end up doing with it is up to them. But yeah, I will not say that eventually we won't see a flying saucer in the game because I think they are very passionate about it. I think at some point Chris will concede, and how it pops out.
Yep.
I
I could see why they're thinking Argo as a if it's a crane type ship, because I could see it having kind of that Carrack. You know, the idea of a Carrack's bridge, a rotating bridge, so you could actually rotate to the different stations. And I could see.
You mean Crucible, but I get you. Yep.
Sorry, Crucible. What did I say?
You. You said Carrack, but I got what you meant.
Sorry,
I know you well enough to know what you meant. But yeah.
But so the Crucible's rotating turret, and I could see that being a real advantage on a small crane ship where you rotate the 360-degree view of what you're looking at, and I could see that. I could see that being an advantage for a ship.
So almost like an MPUV competitor, but by Anvil. So it's like an Anvil military lifter.
Yeah, I could see that.
I can see the lore for this now, and some drunk soldier guy goes walking in his sleep and he's stealing cows. And
yeah,
I can see the lore post on it right now. Yeah.
But how that would fit with an Argo, you know, the small Argo utility craft, I don't see it working. But I could see an Anvil version or something like that. Yeah.
The High Moo, as in like instead of the High Moon, it's the High Moo. That's the lore post. But yeah. He's stealing my cows!
Yeah.
It gives a whole new meaning to cow tipping.
Yep.
But anyway. Right.
So to Maximilian.
Yep.
What role of ship would you most like to see added next? Personally, I'd love to see a stealth hauler or a stealth larger ship.
Stealth hauler? Yeah, I think that'll be eventually a thing, but it'll be more a signature-based ship. I think that's what stealth is going to, is you know, reducing your signature. I think a real big tip of the hat to a lot of that stuff would be the biggest one I can think of. There are others like, you know, the stealth paint on some of the Aegis ships, but clearly the Terrapin. Being able to clamp stuff off and just really bring down your heat signature and all that and essentially hide. And there'll be a skill unto itself being able to know when to turn that on and when to turn it off.
And know when to turn it off.
Because if I could see Algared coming, and I know that my range is like 3 kilometers or whatever my range is, and I just go to the side of Algared and I just clamp off, then in fly past, unclamp. That's stealth, is it not? I didn't go see.
Yeah, and if you can see me before I can, you know my scanning range on my ship, and you know I can't see you, then you've got that time to, you know, run silent, run deep.
Passive scanning only though, because if I did an actual ping,
then I go, whoop, there he is. Yeah.
So again, being passive, it's going to be fairly quick. You're going to have to, you know, you're not going to have a lot of time because again, 25 Ks is not a lot when you're at speed. It's like clamp, and then you got to get the timing right, and the signature will come in as you're clamping possibly as well. So, yeah, skin of the teeth type scenario there.
Bowler asks in YouTube, could the ship be a Kruger? Yes, it could, and I'm sure that
we need to get you and Benoit together, I think, at some point. And you and him like we'll have the full Kruger stream. To do it for charity or something. Should reach out to him and see if you can do a charity stream with Benoit. Just you and him talking about
Kruger.
Yeah, just you and him talking about Kruger for a couple of hours. I reckon we should try to see if we can get that set up. Yeah. Reach out to him. Reach out to him and say, I heard you're a massive Kruger fan. Want to work with you on, you know, I don't know. And he can pick a charity and you can go work out something with him. I reckon they'll go gangbusters.
Yeah, I think I don't actually know Benoit, so I'd have to go through other avenues to see if we could get that going. But yeah, that could be nice.
Just reach out via Spectrum. What's this? Says no. You know?
Well, as I say, if you never know unless you ask.
That's it. Right, Gollett's Ironside says, question, how long until the Starlancer the TAC? I reckon it'll be Invictus, mate. Just based on what we've seen. And it's not that much extra different because really the only thing that's different is that kind of internal hangar bay and then smack some turrets on the outside. So you've probably got, I believe they're man turrets though, aren't they, those two?
Yep.
So yeah, they would have to have a bit of rework on that bottom room, and then you'd kind of essentially gut that top area and drop the hangar in. So it's not a lot of work compared to some other ships, but there is a little bit of work there.
But I would fully expect to see that at Invictus. That's where the military ships get sold, and I wouldn't be surprised if for the attack that's what they're planning.
Makes sense to me.
So yeah, makes sense to me. So
slate plans though could go awry.
Yep, that's right.
We already did
plans.
We already did the one by Cam.
We did the one by Cam,
yep.
righto.
Yep. Go on to the next one. Put it down to the last 5 questions. All right.
Last few questions. Yep. Crivitus has a question. Do you think they will put a true modular ship functionality in, given the problems we know they have had with modular ships, or do you think they will bite the bullet and just make them all?
I think it's from the discussions we had with Ben and John. It seems to be that they don't have the people free to do that yet, but I think it really is the only way you're going to be able to do it based on, what do you say, 220 different versions of the Caterpillar. It's just not feasible at that level. You actually have to make it a proper modular system. And I think that'll provide a lot more benefits to other ships as well. And it also, I think once they have that system up and running, you'll probably see an influx of new modular ships come in. I think actually having that modular system will have other boons and benefits as well, because unlike the Vanguard series having every single variant of a variant, because if you think about it, if you make the Harbinger, then you have the ability for it to take all the pods of the other two. That essentially means the Harbinger's got 3 variants, the Sentinel's got 3 variants, and you see what I mean? So that's actually 9 ships that got to sit there in the files, or you can just have the 3 ships and swap the actual modules over. So that essentially makes the file sizes a third, right? So you add that all together, and it's a boon for us as in file sizes. It's a boon for them in load times. It's just such a metrical compression of things that I just can't see them not doing it. It just makes so much sense to do it. And certain ships, certain ships where they do the changes are external changes, so that increases the load. Ships like the Caterpillar, those changes, you don't have to make as much changes on the outside depending on the module. So there are ways they can help that, but like you said, you start putting those changes in, and you just certainly on the ships like the Vanguard, it just makes it a nightmare. Arcane Danger, thank you for the gifted sub to Humphreys. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Right. Janice Morrissey. Every time I see this guy's name, I think of Janice Morissette, and it's not. I know it's not, but that's what I think of. Do you see engineering coming this quarter? Yeah. Possibly. If they get it all... Well, because I think they've got to kind of fix what they've got there and then add what was missed. And I think the add what was missed might get delayed a bit. So I would say the safest bet, if I was being a betting man, I would say by halfway through this year for sure. I think they would aim to try and do that sooner. But I gotta be honest, I think engineering has got a bit of base building in it too. You know what I mean? Because I think looking up
opponents and
well, the fuses and stuff, I can see. We already know that they had the fuses working in buildings. You get where I'm going with this, right? I think they're interconnected.
Well, you can actually build fuses in the Vulture already. Yeah. So you've got those types of things, but my point being though is maintaining a building. I think is going to be very similar to maintaining a ship. Yeah, indeed. And the fact that you've got fuses in buildings and fuses on ships, the fact you've got power relays on ships. I think you'll see power relays in complex compounds as well. I go back to what I think it was. I can't remember who it was now. We're talking to Disco and talking about star bases and cities on the ground. And Disco asked, "Does that mean I can build a city?" And they said, "Well, it's a room system. So basically, there's no difference in a star base and a city. It's just rooms." And so, yeah, we could easily do that. Same thing. So
Major
That's-
2501 says, "Do you think we'll ever see an Anvil capital ship?" Well, eventually, yes. When?
Your guess is as good as ours.
I think like I think there are still ships tied over or tied to Squadron 42.
Mm.
And when I say this, I mean Episode 2 and Episode 3. And we did even talk about this last stream when I was talking about the Drake ships. I think Episode 2 is going to see more Drake fighters come in, and I would assume that then there's a move back to more new military ships in Episode 3. So I think the Anvil ones are probably tied to Episode 3. I don't know if you think. I don't know if you think the same, but just I'm going based on the lore thing there, where Aegis is the older one. We have a lot of Aegis ones right now, do we not? Idris, Javelin, etc., etc. Then you move into what I think is going to happen in Episode 2. Now, I haven't read it. I'm sure Paul can probably lead more to this because he spoiled it all for himself. But I've got a feeling in Episode 2, and there is no... Actually, no, he's only read Episode 1, so he wouldn't know Episode 2 either. But I just got a feeling it's going to lead to the two enemies going together to go against the Vandal. And I think at some point, something's going to go awry with the Idris that you're on, and you get pushed on to say something like a Drake Kraken. I've just got a feeling. I could be completely wrong. And then because you're working with the pirates, they will give you some of their ships, so you all of a sudden become the underdog against the Vandal. And then it goes, and then somewhere in there you'll go back to normal, get back into normal military service, off into Episode 3 and off in there. That's my thought process. I could be completely pie in the sky there.
Yeah. No, I could see something similar. I think that the Anvil capital ship is something that we've heard on the airways. It's been speculated. There's supposedly some Anvil capital ship being built at MacArthur shipyards.
Yep.
It's been talked about for years. Back in Odyssey, I used to hear the announcements talking about it at times.
Well, the other part
the
other part of that is I reckon that could have been the Liberator. Because the other thing you and I learned is they don't look at ship sizes like you and I do.
No.
Right? So, and how the community understands it, right? So, one of the things that really surprised us was when John literally said straight to my face, plain as day, like it was really simple, that the Ironclad is a Corvette. And I just straight away to him said, by your own metrics, it's not. I said, it's a large, not a capital. I said, if that is the case, you need to...
and then he looked. He
looked at me like I had just told him, like I told him off for stealing candy from the candy jar.
And the other thing was, we asked him specifically about, a Drake Corvette because what people had seen him and asked the question at
the previous
CitizenCon, and we said numerous people at the same time sent us this message. John Crew, blah blah blah, and John Crew basically said, yeah, well, at that time the Ironclad was in production.
Yeah.
18 months in advance. And so that's why he gave a smile, because he was saying, yeah, the Ironclad is the Corvette. And it was like, but it's smaller. And then that raised a question about the two large ships have both had manufacturing and stuff. So
a lot of this stuff isn't rocket science anymore, because we've seen it time and time again. Like when I turned around and said, they've told us that at CitizenCon that the Pioneer went into production. You look at the blue silhouette image, and there are still people that don't think that medium ship is a consolidated outline. It's really obvious that it's most likely a consolidated outline because they're working on the Pioneer. They don't tend to do this stuff in a vacuum anymore. No. They worked on the build. We got a Mirai Guardian.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like the MISC and Mirai are very... Well, now we've seen the inside of the Guardian.
Yeah.
Outside they look different, but inside they're almost identical.
Yep.
So when you kind of lay this all down, if they're saying they're working on ship A, they're clearly most likely working on one or two other ships that are in the same vein, because again, it allows them to work out that stuff. Put it this way, by working out the medium ship details, like what's quicker, to work out the internals of a medium ship or work out all the internals of a Pioneer? I know which one I'd be doing first, don't you, Algared? Because it's going to take me, a hundredth of the time, or however many rooms is the Pioneer is the
And-
percentage. If you get my point, right?
Yep. And you look at the changes they made to the Pioneer, and I cannot imagine the changes to the Pioneer have not come out of the work they've done on other ships that are doing that type of stuff. So
And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get what we'll look at it. We've got essentially got the Mustang, the Nomad, and now clearly something is medium, and then the Pioneer is the capital. I would not be surprised if we don't also see a large ship from Consolidate Outland this year. I'd be really surprised.
And that would give the one ship in every category for that company.
And that
which is something they've kind of hinted they want to do.
And the other reason that tells you that it's a medium is you essentially had Spirit, Zeus, and then the medium one will come at CitizenCon, which will be the Consolidated Outland one. I bet money on it, because the last few years they've been very consistent in how they do things. It's almost they've cracked this code. Just like I could almost bet money. I don't know what it is right now, and I could be absolutely wrong, right? But I'd bet money that we get Intrepid variants at next year's IAE. Like we did with the Cutter, like we did with the Pisces. You get where I'm going with this, right? Those
I could see that.
Last 5 years have been really on point and been very similar.
Because they also want to give those starter ships the variation to try a different gameplay. So it makes sense. So yeah. Janice Morrissey has a question. Do you think we'll see a large ship with an EMP? Something bigger than a Connie?
They did say
all EMP ships are small.
They did say eventually. What was the other one they talked about too? Was quantum dampeners as well. So yeah, very much. What do we call it? The Mantis. We talked about a larger stealth ship, EMP warfare type of corvette years ago now. And you take all that tech that you see that is kind of divvied up between the smaller, stealthy, combat-y type of ships and roll it all into one. Multiple EMPs, quantum dampening, quantum interdiction, and then a really small signature. So it's hard to see, yet as soon as it wants to stop you, it can. And then even in combat, if it's not for that big bright red thing, you probably can't even see it. It's got such a small signature. Again, it probably doesn't have the guns to go with it, but it probably has got speed on its side and stuff like that. Yeah. I can see something like that, but again, until they actively start working on that gameplay, you can now see, that's why we've never got something else like the Sentinel, because they announced E-Warfare and then they went, well, it's not a good idea to sell these things if we're not going to work on them for 10 plus years or however long it's going to be, right? They've kind of learned that now, that before they were riding by the seat of their pants, right? But like we were saying earlier about the Reclaim Algared, haven't they? The Reclaimer taught them a lot about, ships don't come out with their gameplay.
What to do, yeah.
And it's the same thing from sales. You'll notice now, you look over the last 5 years, as we were talking about, they don't tend to sell a lot of ships. Now, one that breaks that role is the Expanse, because they were clearly looking at doing refining, and then refining went bust. Just like the other one that would do it would be the Legionnaire. They were planning to do hacking gameplay, but shit hit the fan, and so it got dropped off.
Yep.
It'll come back around, though.
Yeah, I could see a Legionnaire kind of being a ship that kind of incorporated that EMP or dampening stuff, because you're trying to board them. You don't want them to fly away. So
Legionnaire variant.
But whether it's too much, don't know.
The thunderclap.
Yeah.
It just smacks and you can't go anywhere. Right.
Yeah. Crivitus had a question. Do you think they will add ships that do gas mining or mining collecting in Nebula?
Yeah.
The answer is yes. In fact, they have already added a ship and sold a ship that can do gas mining or gas collection, and that is the Starfarer.
And that's how we know that the other stuff is a thing. And I've, you add that together with they want a ship of each type in every size. The Starfarer is technically large, so you could technically get a capital above. But now I look at a Starfarer knowing what I know about Corvettes, technically that could be the capital, so you might not get one above it. But also there's room for ones below it as well. I think, though, with where they're going and how they're expanding things out, like the prospector can't do underground mining anymore, things like that. I think that's them going, we can make more ships now, so we're going to expand it out. I think you're going to get more, not less. So I do eventually, capital refining, capital gas collection, and whether gas collection is still underground mining or are they two separate things? Because you've obviously got Nebula collection or gas collection in space or in a gas giant. That's very different to getting it out of a geyser under the ground. So I think there's almost two separate parts there, underground and gas collection. So obviously, though, the bigger you go, it becomes like the Orion where it can't go down a planet, though. So
medium stealth cargo ship. Feels like we've answered that question 2 or 3 times today. I'm not sure why there's this desire for this stealth cargo ship. It's almost...
I think someone just asked it, and he's probably reiterated when we were answering the question. But yeah, to me that would be. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's already there, and it's the Retaliator with the cargo modules.
Yep.
We've talked about it quite a lot, being one of the most. Well, it's the deception smuggler, is it not, Algared?
Yep. And
So,
front on, it's one of the smallest ships of its size.
Same size,
directly at it.
same size as the Saber almost from the front. So again, that really small signature. And we've often said it's probably going to be the best smuggling vehicle in the entire game because you just don't know it's even there. And again, do you go up to it and even check it, because you might be receiving some torpedoes instead?
Yeah. So I've scanned. If it works like scanning did in Starfleet Battles, the paperboard game. At X range, you could say, oh, it's a class 5 ship. At X range, you could say, oh, it's a Starfarer. At X range, you'd go, oh, it's a Starfarer with blah, 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 and you could actually tell what class. And so the closer you got, the more information you got. You detect that it's a Retaliator. Are you going to go, as you said, going to go closer and see, is it a cargo ship, or am I going to run because it's a police ship?
9 times out of 10, you're not even going to have to do anything other than just lock them in a Retaliator, and then they go, oh shit. Oh shit!
Yeah.
No, big fun of that. Because you're doing anything other than locking them, but they're just going to be like, oh shit, they've actually got torpedoes, and you might not have any torpedoes. You could just have. That'd be the funniest thing if you could actually lock but not actually have torpedoes. That would be so funny.
Or missile lock or something. Do a missile lock, and they're going to run.
But it's just really funny. Like, do you call their bluff? And eventually, one day, you call their bluff, and they just go, shit, no torpedoes.
Yep. But it's that, like, I always see that type of stuff is that subterfuge, that false flag, is what gives the merchant ship the time to flee. It's that 30 seconds of indecision that could be the difference between making the jump or not making the jump.
Chris is just mentioning in YouTube chat there about the Sulian. I actually am hopeful that we actually get the Sulian at Alien Week this year, because based on the fact that it went into grey box at the end of not last year but the year before, that should put it in an 18-month time frame to come out at Invictus. Saying that we are going to get it, but based on what they've been telling us or what we learned at CitizenCon, that lines up for an 18-month window, and it would be really great to actually get an alien ship at Alien Week. I think that would be great.
Yeah, it would be nice. So
yeah.
Yep. Socially Confused. This week's sneak peek is just letting us know it looks to be a MISC ship. And it looks like it's a salvager.
Wait.
Haven't seen the sneak peek. Yep, that would be.
Oh, I'm going to open that
at the back of.
I'm going to open that right now, but I've got a feeling that that's the Misfortune, if that's what he's describing. Yeah, let's have a look. I haven't been in my email today, but you'll hear a doo in a minute if I've got an email. So, there's my test account count of the PTU. So that wasn't it. No, I don't have the email yet. Someone want to link me through the sneak peek if you've got it, and we'll bring it up on stream and have a look. So I don't have the email yet. Right. Next question, Aaron.
Yes, Crivitus, and Crivitus says, do you think they will add the ring-style travel routes of older gameplays like Freelancer at some point?
No. Not now. Why would you build the tech and then go backwards? That don't make sense. I think that was the original plan before People to Planet, again, you can go back and look at CitizenCon where they had the Connie flying down through the pipe essentially. And I don't think it ever would have been the rings. It would have been the pipe, like flying down on a guided path, which I think they've run out the window now.
Well, they ditched that idea. They did play with that for a while, you recall. So it went from completely automated to fly, and then they brought in that to try and help people. Then they just ditched it because it was more pain than it was worth. So yeah, I think Pupil to Planet really just changed everything for them. And why go back, as you said? Duvel's has a question. This is our last question we have on the board.
Before you do that, someone said that it was on Reddit, but I can't find it. So either someone's lying, or which one's the same? I don't see any here that look like a sneak
I wonder if
peek.
it's the this month's jump point at last page, because that also usually does kind of a sneaky peek type thing.
Do you want to link that to me then?
I haven't looked at it, but I do know.
I said sneak
that
peek
page
newsletter.
Usually shows.
Didn't they say sneak peek newsletter though?
But I know with jump point, the last page usually shows a flare, and this month's flare is a plant holder, a vase, and a chest.
There's another important one for tonight's 4.1 build. Make sure you don't install a clean update from 4.0 preview, or you'll most likely hit a client crash at launch. So yeah, don't do what I was planning to do.
Yeah. Okay, so don't do that.
Yeah, I can't see anything there about a sneak peek. So you have a look on your own, Algared, if you find anything sent through to me. And what was the question? Devil says, you see them making a snub mining salvage ship, like MPU variant or something like that. That would be kind of cool to have like a mothership that flies out and it has lots of little, almost like a drone ship but pilot controlled. Yeah, possibly. The gameplay's got to be there to match. If it's just real light and stuff. Pinged me in Discord, thanks Cam. Spoilers and leaks. Scrolling down, execute. Is there a minute? Did something else? Oh, okay. I think this is it. I don't know what to make of that, Algared. That almost looks like two beds, or is that just me? Or am I seeing things that are not there?
No, that's just. I could see why you think it's two beds, because it's like the rim, but that looks like component type stuff. But I could see it looks like a handrail on the side.
I want the context. I want what it says under the image, because that often tells you a lot of things about this stuff. But if that's the door, you'd assume that that's the cargo area. If that is the not the cargo area, if that is the
bridge or wherever.
Yeah, if that's that doesn't look like the bridge though now I think of it, because you can see through the window. If I could see through the window and I was looking at a prospector, you'd see glass there, would you not? On the other side. So I think that's the lift at the back. I think the cargo's I think the cockpit's this end. And that would make it like here is where the door. Well, actually, I can't get the mouse pointer down there, but below us is where the door would be. We know the door's possibly blocked off on this one. I don't know. Yeah, that as always, Algared, just enough rope to hang ourselves.
Indeed, always.
Yep. No more, no less. So yeah.
No, last jump point is December's.
If you have Sandgroper, if you can't look at that and tell it's MISC, there is something wrong with you, bro. It's pointing out that that's got a MISC logo under the door that I can't even see for the second. But that's a MISC door and a MISC floor. You can just tell by
shaping.
Tell by the
I
styling.
looked at that and I thought it looks
straight.
like
it's straight.
Starfarer.
That's what you did. Yeah.
Not a Starfarer. It just looks,
whole series.
The whole series or any of the MISC ships. It just looks.
Where's this logo he's talking about under the door? He said there's under the door. There, MISC. Yeah, that right there, little grey bit. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's MISC without even.
But it just looks like MISC always, and the.
Oh, Shinobi Trip just
the freelancer
Shinobi Trip just
tunnels
gifted.
or whatever.
Shinobi Trip just gifted 10 subs. Thank you, Shinobi. So make sure you thank him. Spicy SC07, Cruthelian Solaris, Architect TV, Grey Gamer 77, Pork Fried Bryce, Kablam, Sandgroper, oh, not that dickhead, SD Splice, and Spike 66K. Make sure you reach out and thanks, Shinobi Trip.
Yep.
First time chatter. Even the rubber floor has MISC logos on it. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yes. Was that the... Yeah, this is the email. So now I can actually go have a look and see for myself what it says on the preview. So it says... Do mind your step, Captain.
Mind your step.
That doesn't help. Oh, do mine? No,
Do mine your step?
Do mine your step, Captain? I don't know. Yeah, it could be a play on words.
Yeah, who knows? It could be a...
They just
It
look
could
like...
be that it's...
They look like beds with the doors closed, though. Like, see that? That almost looks like... Because I'm expecting the ship to be the Misfortune. If it is the Misfortune. To be two-person. Based on how the Reclaimer works with one on the tractor beam, one on the salvage. Now, I could be completely wrong on that, but that's kind of what I'm expecting. I think that's going to be... I think that's why the door's locked off and the elevator's at the back. But, yeah, I don't know. I could be absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
I'll just kind of wait and see at this point.
I'll just say, yeah, it's a MISC ship.
Yeah.
But if it's MISC, then based on the fact that we've heard about the Misfortune and it's on the curtain, that would be my guess.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but yeah.
Just gonna find someone to raid on real quick. What we got here? Hi, hello. Some new faces there. Oh, they're French. Right. There's a lot of people on our set today. This is good. Nice and healthy. Wait to see. Yeah, why not? I think we'll raid Expat. Why not?
No, she was streaming even before we started. She's been going for at least 4 hours.
She goes hard, man. I've seen her, like, I've gone to bed, got back up, and she's still going.
Yep. So give her our love.
Yep.
And say, oh, what do we want to know?
Yep. I don't know. Ask her what she thinks of the sneak peek. There we go. No, I don't know. Yeah, fresh in my mind. All right. Yeah, just tell her hello, send her our love.
Yep.
And yeah. All right. That's getting itself together. So everyone, wait, I gotta go back to this screen, don't I? Terrible. Right, everyone on YouTube, say goodbye to Twitch. Twitch should go a little bit up, to YouTube. Yeah. All right, yeah, man, my voice is stuffed today. All right.
Yep.
See you, Twitch. Bye-bye.
Bye, Twitch.
All right, and they're off to
And they're
Expat.
gone.
And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Thank you to everyone that went extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video in the credits. He's been Old Man Hurston.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens.